Welcome to the Bakersfield City Council meeting. This television broadcast is brought to you by the local cable companies, the County of Kern, and the City of Bakersfield. You can watch the rebroadcast of this meeting on KGov Channel 16 at 7 p.m. Saturday, Sunday at 10 a.m., and the following Wednesday at 7 p.m. You can download the agenda for this meeting at www.bakersfieldcity.us. Presiding over this evening's meeting, Vice Mayor Harold Hansen.
Thank you and welcome to the Bakersfield City Council agenda meeting, August 17, 2016. We'll probably have a little fun tonight because I've been up here 16 years and this is my second time around, so it's not easy, and Ken will verify that. So the first item will be the roll call.
Mayor Hall. Vice Mayor Hansen.
Here.
Councilmember Rivera. Here. Councilmember Maxwell.
Here.
Councilmember Weir.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
I'm here.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Here.
Councilmember Parlier.
Here.
Okay, Madam Clerk, next item.
Vice Mayor, we have the invocation and pledge.
Okay, the invocation tonight is by Nazar Kuner, Guru Ram Das Academy. And before we go into that, if you could wait just a moment, that would you remain standing after the invocation for the Pledge of Allegiance by Ty Aldrich, 6th grade student at the American Elementary School.
Thank you, Mayor. ਤੋਦਾ ਅੱਗੇ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਹਮਾਰੀ ਜੀਓ ਪਿੰਡ ਸਭ ਤੇਰਾ ਕੌਣ ਨਾਨਕ ਸਭ ਤੇਰੀ ਵਡਿਆਈ ਕੋਈ ਨਾਉ ਨਾ ਜਾਣੇ ਮੇਰਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ 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 ਸ੍ਰੀ ਭਗਵਤੀ ਜੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਵਾਰ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਭਗਵਤੀ ਜੀ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਦਸਵੀਂ ਪ੍ਰਥਮ ਭਗਵਤੀ ਸਿਮਰ ਕੇ ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਲੀਨ ਤੇ ਆਏ ਫਿਰ ਅੰਗਤ ਗੁਰੂ ਅਮਰਦਾਸ ਰਾਮਦਾਸ ਸੇ ਹੋਏ ਸਹਾय अर्जुन हर गोबिंद नो सिमरो श्री राय श्री हर कृष्ण चाहिए जिस डिठे सब जाए तेग बहादुर सिमरे करना उन्हें दावताए सब थाई होए सहाय 10वें पातशाह धन धन गुरु गोबिंद सिंह जी महाराज सब थाई सहाय 10 पातशाहियों की जिਉਂਦੀ जो धन धन गुरु ग्रंथ साहिब जी के पाठ ददार का ਧਿਆਨ खालसा जी बोलो जी वाहिगुरू जिन्हें पंजा पैरों चौं साहब जी 40 मुक्तियां जपियां तो पेटियां जिन्होंने नाम जपे बन सके देख चलाई तेग बाई देख के अंडर किया तेना प्यारे सचारियां की कमाई का ਧਿਆਨ खालसा जी बोलो जी वाहिगुरू ओ माई लॉर्ड टुडे with your grace, I am given an opportunity to do your prayer. My Lord, bless my lovely country, America, and all the people. And bless the citizens of Bakersfield. My Lord, bless our mayor and city council members. My Lord, bless our police chief and police officers. My Lord, bless our city manager and city officer and city employees. Have mercy. Give a peace to city. Give a more development. My Lord, stay with us. Help us to achieve our goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ty?
Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you both. Okay, please be seated and we'll proceed. I do request that anyone would cellular phone, please turn it off, or any electronic equipment. And also a reminder that no council member is allowed by law to receive council or messages on their cell phones or electronic gadgets, so we'll move on from there. Just another reminder, we promise that we'll be nice to you, you folks be nice to us. In your presentations, we ask everybody to be as professional as possible. Thank you. Next item.
Item 4A is presentation of a certificate of appreciation to property owners Eduardo and Gina Araza, honoring the selection 7613 Carabina Court as Yard of the Quarter.
Is this on? Okay. This is the property presentation? Yes, okay. You know what? Just a reminder to staff that, make a recommendation that we probably should take a picture of the yard and have it up there for folks to look at. So in the future, we should ask other people to do that so that the audience can enjoy it. But this is a certificate of appreciation presented to Eduardo and Jeannie Araza, property owners, in recognition of the selection of 7613 Carabina Court as Yard of the Year Quarter for spring 2016. Maybe you'd like to tell us a little bit about what you did, okay? Before I present this to you, you have to talk.
Honestly, we purchased the house a couple of years ago and we've upkept it, but the prior owner of the home was a landscape architect and he designed it as a drought-tolerant yard prior to it being popular. It's beautiful, it's really peaceful, there's a lot of river rock, and the backyard is beautiful as well. So we appreciate this award and we thank you very much.
Well, again, we thank you. You know, there's so many places in Bakersfield that are so well kept up, some not so well kept up. And, you know, I'm going to make a point of going by and checking out your yard, and congratulations. Okay. Okay, I don't know. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay,
Item B is
next item, please.
Item B is a presentation of a certificate of appreciation to Stephen Shepfer, owner of Pedicabs, for providing an innovative transportation solution in downtown Bakersfield.
Do you really pull one of those things?
We do peddle those around downtown.
You know what? I've been in a lot of different vehicles in my life, but not a pedicab.
You're welcome to come pedal with us anytime.
Okay, how much do I need? Reasonable amount, right?
A reasonable.
Okay. Anyway, Stephen, we want to congratulate you on this as far as, you know, we're not using gasoline, we're not using oil, we're not doing any of that stuff. So this is in recognition of the innovative nature of Think Green pedicabs. I think Kathy Butler had something to do with this, as well as your dedication to contributing to the revitalization historic downtown Bakersfield. Hope you guys are around for a while. It must be a little warm right now. If you want to tell us a little bit about your business, we'd be happy to hear it.
It definitely is a little bit warm, Mayor Hampton, but we're excited to be a part of the growth of downtown, and we've been working a lot with the DBA. We're attending the Business Expo tomorrow. We're going to be unveiling the first downtown Butler mobile, and 50% of proceeds on that are going to go to the DBDC to continue to help with development in the downtown community. Our next unveiling hopefully will be something for the police department. We appreciate the police department being out there keeping everybody safe, and we'd like to see one generating revenues to help continue the growth of law enforcement in the community. We'd also like to say thank you to the attorney's office, because there was a little roadblock at the start of this venture, but they gave us their blessing, and we appreciate that. Bike Bakersfield for pushing for safer biking lanes in and around the community. We appreciate that as well. And again, if you haven't rode a pedicab, look for us out there and we'll get you to your next stop. And thanks to the community and the businesses for all your support. Thank you.
Stephen, that's a great story, and I look forward to getting out there, and congratulations.
Thank you.
What about we get a picture? Stand like those.
I got a step stool out there if you need it.
That'd be good.
Thank you.
The next presentation is the new staff introductions.
Honorable Mayor and members of City Council, there are two new faces in significant positions in the city, and I just wanted to let you see their face, have them say a few words, and so that you'll know who they are. The first is actually an employee of the Anschutz Entertainment Group. Steve Eckerson is the new VP General Manager of Rabobank Arena Theater and Convention Center. Steve comes to us directly from, spent 8 years as the similar position at the Citizens Business Bank Arena in Ontario, California, which was a copy of our building, actually, architecturally, literally. And he has a very diverse range of past accomplishments in sales and marketing, operations, finance, in other venues around the country. And if you want a specific act to come to Bakersfield, mention it to him, and I can't promise that he'll get them all, but I guarantee you he'll work on it. So Steve Eckerson.
Thank you. Thank you, Alan. Nothing like putting me under pressure right off the bat.
I forgot the most important thing. He was a hockey player at the University of Vermont.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. This is a wonderful city. And as a point of reference, Mr. Vice Mayor, you mentioned the tenure of a city manager. And in Ontario, where I'm coming from, there were 3 in my almost 9 years there, and the over and under on the current one is probably 2 more years. So we are blessed with a terrific city manager here. And I understand that you may have been acquainted with George Borba and in Citizens Business Bank, a great man and certainly missed down there, as you know. So I've been very well received. The staff is terrific. Alan and the city staff, very warm and welcoming. Ed Dorsey, who's here, has been with the arena. I guess, Ed, I'm your 5th general manager that you've had to train. So thank you for your warm welcome. And it's a pleasure to be here. And yes, as Alan said, if there's any act that you'd like to see, I'll work on it. I just can't promise. So. Is there any questions? I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, thank you for your warm welcome. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome back to Bakersfield.
The next introduction is our new Human Resources Manager, Lisa McGranahan. Lisa comes to us, as did the previous HR manager, from the private sector. So she has to get oriented to civil service commissions and a few things which are different from us, but in the vast majority of her work-related activities, her experience in industrial concerns, manufacturing, and other areas in the private sector will prepare her. And I can tell you that the thing that secured her position, and I'll paraphrase, but we asked her why she was applying to the city of Bakersfield, and even though she was in the private sector, she said, she lives here, it's her city, and she wanted to make it better, and that's a good line. So, Lisa?
Thank you. Well, thank you. Happy to be here. I've been on the job for about a week and certainly not bored. And just to keep it in summary, I'm very excited to have been a resident of Bakersfield for about 9 years now, and looking forward to be a service to the city and the community as well.
Thank you, Lisa, and welcome. Okay, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
Public statements.
Okay, at this time, we will receive public statements. All statements are given a 3-minute time limit, 15 minutes per topic. If you have written comments that are longer than your verbal statements, give it to the clerk, who will provide copies to the council. If you're here to speak on consent calendar items 9A, 9B, 9C, as in Charlie, this is not the time to speak. And also, on consent calendar item 6B, I believe that's the one on the trucks, the food trucks, that your time to speak in that will be at that presentation. Members of the audience are asked to avoid engaging in any behavior that disrupts orderly contact. First speaker, please.
Vice Mayor Hansen, we have 12 speakers this evening. The first is Kathy Butler regarding downtown update.
Good evening, Vice Mayor Hansen, council and staff. My name is Kathy Butler. I'm president of the DBA and executive director of the Downtown Bakersfield Development Corporation. I'm present tonight to invite you to our DBA Expo that's going to be tomorrow night. I have tickets and information. We have well over 50 vendors. We're very excited about it. DBDC will have a booth, and we will be promoting next week's high-speed rail site survey expo that will be taking place. We are also working with promoting upcoming events from the Bakersfield Marathon. We are planning a meet and greet with residents in the Oleander, the Westchester and downtown area at the Racket Club next month with the coordinators of the event to prepare them and how they can get involved. And we're really excited about that event. I want to thank Mr. Maxwell. We are also working on the Taste of Downtown. That'll be September 15th. And we are planning a big event in the Arts District. And we are also working on an empowerment breakfast that will be the end of next month, and we're inviting guests from Visalia to learn a little bit about what they are working on. So we're very excited. Glad we're working with us as part of our team, and also that you are looking at an ordinance such as the food truck ordinance. We were the ones that originally said to take a look at this. We have members on both sides, and we're really excited about working together on this. And just want to present this. Thank you very much.
Kathy, just a comment. You know, the downtown area just becomes better and better all the time. I think I was president of that thing, your organization, probably 20 years ago, and it certainly didn't look like it does today.
No.
And I will be unable to attend tomorrow night because I'm at Cruncog meeting, and I know Bob Smith is going to be in New York. But congratulations to you guys. Keep up the good work. It's really moving along fine.
It's a private-public effort working together, and it's very exciting. We're building the momentum, and people are feeling like it's starting to turn. Things are happening, but it hasn't happened overnight. But thank you very much for being part of our team in 2016.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I missed that. Terry, you have a comment?
Yeah, Kathy, I don't think you let everybody know where the event tomorrow night is going to be.
Oh, I'm sorry, at the Westchester?
At the Westchester on F Street, across the street from Rosemary's.
Correct.
Great. Just want to make sure everybody knew where it was going to be.
3 to 7.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks, Terry, I missed that. Next speaker, please.
Michael Harless regarding Golden Empire Transit.
Good evening. Please speak into the microphone and give us your name, please.
Mike, and I'm speaking on the bus system. Ever since 2012, we have a decline of ridership because the bus stops are too far apart, and I was just wondering, what are we going to do about this? Because we used to have more riders when we had the old system, routes 1 to whatever, instead of the new system, and I don't know. I'm kind of nervous, I'm sorry. I was just wondering what are we going to do about the new system, because we don't have as many riders as we used to, and the main reason is because the bus stops are too far apart, and some of the bus stops are too dangerous to get off on, like at White Lane and Stein. The sidewalk is all tore up and everything, and so and I don't. That's it.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine. Terry, you have a comment? Willie.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thanks for bringing that up. Could I make a referral in response to this? And I think it's timely because we haven't had one in a while. There was an ad hoc transportation committee that Councilmember Russell Johnson and I kind of went rogue on and created on our own. And it was in partnership with the county, and we had Supervisor Perez and Supervisor Maggard from the county on that particular board, or on that ad hoc committee. I'd like to ask staff to work with me in actually scheduling something. We can either do it here at City Chambers or maybe at County Chambers. And we can start talking again about routes and kind of get an update from getting the different stakeholders on how things are going. I don't necessarily want to volunteer Councilmember Parley to fill Councilmember Johnson's spot, but
I'm already on that committee, Willie.
perfect. So we'll let's make it happen.
There's also some areas that Gate no longer goes into, but it was very popular with the riders, and we need to do something about that as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Next speaker, please.
Isaiah Crompton regarding Hookah Lounge.
Please speak into the microphone and give us your name, please.
My name is Isaiah Crompton. To the Vice Mayor Hanson and all the city council members, thank you for allowing me the time to come before you this evening. I'm here today to talk about a business that has, where there has been over 200 calls to the police, and there's been 4 murders at that site. They've moved from one address to another. They're downtown now, but I'm here with a few more concerned citizens that we want to see something happen about that place. It stays open till 4 o'clock in the morning, and there's it breeds a lot of violence. I know the problem of gang violence doesn't land solely on the owner of that establishment, but I do think that that is a problem. It's a nuisance, and I'm looking forward to maybe speaking with, I think, Councilmember Maxwell in the near future about what can be done. I turned in a petition to the city attorney's office, and we're also going to start a petition with businesses and residents of Bakersfield. The other thing that I want to talk briefly about, and hopefully work with the police chief, is a restriction, I mean not a restriction, but a curfew for our youth. There's 2 curfews that are already, I guess, on the books or whatever, how to say it. But we want to impose those restrictions of 10 o'clock curfew to some of these shooters that's taken off the streets, and we can do something about this gang violence in our city. I think we owe it to our kids, we owe it to our community to do what we can. Thank you.
Thank you.
One other thing.
Yes, sir.
I would like to come back in a month, and I would like to see if we can have this on the agenda, the hookah lounge, or and the maybe the curfew also.
You're welcome to come back anytime. Councilmember Rivera has comments.
Okay.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So a few things, or a few thoughts or suggestions. One, on the curfew, and I'll run it by the chair of that committee, but we are in the process of scheduling a Safe Neighborhoods Committee, and this reminds me that I need to specify some of those items so that we can schedule it. This is, I think, a good item for an upcoming agenda, I would think, if that's all right with the chair. And then I think a general safety update would be helpful as well. But I'm curious on the hookah lounge front. Does it? So you said it's open till 4 a.m. It doesn't serve alcohol, does it? I'm assuming it does not.
I don't know.
Okay. And maybe this is a question for the city attorney, but would this be the type of facility that might, or would it be acceptable to in the future require a conditional use permit or something in order to operate?
Councilmember Rivera and members of the council, if that's something that you wanted a committee to look at, we can certainly do that. I would suggest either planning and development. Actually, I would suggest planning and development. That's typically where that would go.
Okay.
We can look at that and then bring it back to the council.
I think it's appropriate, and I'm having it's escaping me right now, but for most other places open past 2 a.m., and I want to say dance clubs or something.
Cabarets.
Oh, well, okay. Some form of dancing required a conditional use permit, is that correct?
Not all of them require it, but again, I think given the hookah lounge and the fact that they're smoking, we have to make sure that it's not inconsistent with some of our cigar bars and our other types of businesses that have tobacco. So again, I think that Mr. Crompton's suggestion deserves that we look at it, but we want to make sure we don't step on landmines elsewhere. So again, I think planning and development makes sense.
I don't know. I guess I'm just going to make a bunch of referrals tonight. I don't know who chairs planning and development, but Bob, I'll throw that out there. It seems appropriate to send it to that committee, or even Legend Lit. I don't know.
Mr. Maxwell.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate it very much. I have met with the people at the Hookah Lounge before, and I think your comment about the fact that this is sometimes a gang-related, and it's not necessarily inside the Hookah Lounge, but it does tend to draw those type of people into the parking lots, and we have had problems. I know that the police chief has recognized that, and we've been trying to do some extra things. Unfortunately, with the limited number of police officers we have, if they're responding to a call someplace else, sometimes it takes them a little bit of time to get there, but we know there's a problem. And my hat's off to you for the community effort that you have made, going out and getting signatures. We will be attentive to this. We will be doing something about it. Is it possible to change that committee to Legend Lit instead of planning and development? Because wouldn't we be changing a ordinance or looking at the legalities of having the place open at a certain time?
Councilmember Maxwell, members of the council, it's really council's consideration on which committee you'd like it to go to. I don't think the city manager or I have any particular preference one way or the other. I think that planning and development is going to have their hands full with the wireless communication facilities that they're going to be looking at, but typically when we put these types of restrictions on businesses, it can go to either planning and development or Legend Lit. So again, I would encourage you not to vote on it because, again, we can't vote on it tonight, which would delay it. So,
well, then I'd ask the chair if they, with what they've got on their plate, if they would mind Legend Lit looking at this, because we really don't have much on our agenda at this point.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with where it goes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith, Bob, you all right? Madam Clerk, next speaker, please.
Robert Miller regarding Cal Water.
Good evening. Robert Miller. I live at 255 Lincoln Street, East Bakersfield. I have a gripe against Cal Water, and I don't think it affects me only, but affects a lot of people in that area. I used to be on a flat rate, which would run about $70 a month. And now I get my bill since they put in a meter, and it was $130. Well, that shocked me. But the thing that shocked me most is when I read page 2 on here, it says I used 42,636 gallons of water in a month. That's enough to fill 8 swimming pools, plus give me water my lawn. Now, I don't know who else to go to because I called them up and they come out and said, oh, there's water in your lawn or something that way. Well, I don't know. I'm just kind of dumping it in here. But something ought to be done against, let's say, Cal Water just coming in and doing this. And so there. I don't know what else to do, but it's wrong. And I'm not the only one. I have a neighbor that was paying $90 a month, and their bill was $300 and something. You would think we had a mansion or something that was doing a city block. But anyway, that's all I got to say. Somebody ought to do something. Thank you.
Okay, before you leave, Councilman Perlier has some comments. Chris?
Thank you, Vice Mayor or Mayor. Since we have a half room full of Cal Water people tonight, Rudy, if you could reach out to this gentleman and make contact and see if we can work on something with him, I'd sure appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
The gentleman right over there will help you, sir. Thank you.
Boy, look out.
You got it. Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Jamie Seeger regarding issues with College and Fairfax.
Please speak into the microphone and give your name, please.
Hello, my name is Jamie Seeger. I was here, I believe it was June 29th, and I spoke to Councilman Weir. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I just wanted to come here to thank Councilman Weir in person for having city staff and he reach out to me regarding all the various issues on College Avenue and Fairfax regarding street widening, weed abatement, the whole long laundry list you remember. And so I wanted to say thank you so much. I really, really appreciated your time and your consideration. Of course, I am still waiting for action. The one thing I would hope that you could expedite, as I mentioned before, is the weed abatement that wraps around from the property owned by World of Pentecost. The weeds are actually growing into the street. It's very dangerous. And also onto College Avenue, because again, it's just a trash dump. It's just horrible. It's dangerous. Then again, there are those other weeds that are being fed by some kind of water leak. They're long reeds. They border the property between World of Pentecost and Shadow Ridge. And that is a concern because we've got, the mosquitoes now. We've got West Nile virus and the Zika virus now, the mosquitoes. That's a prime breeding ground for them. So I really do hope that code enforcement does something about that. They have not up until now. I don't know that that's even been addressed by them. And really something has to be done quite quickly. One last thing I'd like to say, it just crossed my mind. I've been hiking lately up and around the Panorama Bluffs for exercise. And great trails, you get lots of exercise, but it's now virtually owned by and taken over by the gangs. The graffiti is ridiculous. The trash, the graffiti, but really it looks like it's gang territory. I'm concerned to go there. And if anybody goes out there, you can tell that the gangs own it. So if somebody could maybe take a look, having police patrol it, possibly they need some undercover officers just to hang out there and see what's going on, because dedication plaques have been graffitied, the ground, the benches, everything. It's horrible. Even the trees. It's bad. So.
All right, thank you for your comments, and I'll say something on behalf of Ken. Good comments as far as thanking Ken, because all of us up here do a lot of different things, and we hear a lot of complaints, but not too often saying thank you. So I appreciate that, and I'll pass the mic on to Ken to comment regarding your questions.
Chris, would you like to meet with Jamie and see if we can work out some things and maybe see if code enforcement can get out there and take care of those weeds? As far as Panorama Park, I think that's county.
Yeah, I don't know who owns it. I just know
county.
that within the last 2 weeks I've seen, it looks like there's an increased amount of graffiti all over Bakersfield, like it's like a gang war. I don't know what's going on, but they've actually ramped up their efforts, and it's a real red flag. It's ugly, and obviously it shows that they're in control, and we need to take back control.
I appreciate your comments, but unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to do anything up there.
Oh, you mean you can't go do that yourself?
I could take my weed eater down there and see what I could do, but I don't think that's going to help. And
Yeah.
isn't that part of the county, Panorama Park? I'm positive it is.
Yeah, well, I'm not just talking about the weeds there. I mean, obviously, there's budget concerns with maintaining the park. But when you've got that much gang activity, or I don't know if it's gangs, but the taggers, whatever.
I would suggest you call the county supervisor for that area.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Next speaker, please.
Vice Mayor Hansen, we have 5 speakers for the sound wall for Brighton Parks matter. The first speaker is Etta Robin.
Please step to the microphone and repeat your name, please.
Yes, good evening to the City Council and all of the staff. My name is Etta Robin, and I have been a resident of Brighton Parks, which is located quite close to the West Side Parkway, since 2009. And when I moved there, I had lived in Bakersfield since 1972, and I lived on the northeast side of town for 12 years in a home that was off of Oswell and Pico, and then for 24 years in a house that was off of College and Oswell. And there was lots of congestion and traffic and noise. And so when it was time to find a home for my retirement years, I found this lovely community for over 55 and older, that was quiet and peaceful and serene. It was a gated community, and I was thrilled to move in. And I remember walking one evening, and I saw a gentleman there, and I said, "Is it always this quiet? It feels like people have died and gone to heaven." And he says, "Yes, it's always this serene." And I was very happy there until they started the construction on the West Side Parkway, which I did not know about when I purchased the house. And the noise of all the construction, of course, was overwhelming to us. I live on Winger Street, which is the northernmost street, and I live on the south side of the street. Those on the north side of that street have their back to where the West Side Parkway is. I cannot open my windows if I work in my yard, front or back. I am hearing the roaring of motorcycles, trucks. They put concrete, I should say, down instead of asphalt. So that adds to the augmenting of the sound. And it's really challenging. I go for a walk every day for 45 minutes in our community. And I wear a headset with music. I can be on the other side of our community, the southernmost street that's adjacent to Stockdale Highway, and I can still hear the sounds of the roaring motorcycles, the trucks, the vehicles as they climb off onto Allen or descend down from Allen onto that West Side Parkway. Are huge sounds. And it's not just during work time. It's all in the weekend and it's during the day. And I'm concerned soon Highway 58 will be connected. And then we're going to have hundreds of trucks coming, also more trucks. And I'm hoping that you can appreciate the perspective of somebody who has lived here for so many years, and I'm looking in my retirement years for the peace and serenity that a sound wall would help us get closer to having. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for keeping your comments to 3 minutes. Get next speaker, please.
Bill Best.
Please speak into the microphone and give us your name, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Best. 4 years ago, my wife Janet and I moved to Brighton Park Senior Community. When we first moved there was no West Side Parkway. We were delighted with how peaceful and quiet the community was. Our backyard was just the right size and there was a nice covered patio. We happily made plans for the improvements in that patio, for patio furniture and, barbecue and such. Inside the house, we were able to sleep with our bedroom windows open and enjoy the cool night air. When the West Side Parkway opened, just 300 feet on the other side of our patio wall, everything changed. It was so noisy, we dropped our plans to use the patio and we shut all the doors and windows. We had noticed there were sound walls for every community along the parkway, and they had all been built except ours. So we thought when our sound wall gets built, things will be better. When we found out that our community was not going to get a sound wall, I contacted Channel 23, and they came out and talked with me, and that interview was aired on Channel 23 that evening. The biggest problem is directly behind our house is an eastbound on-ramp that starts at the top of Allen Street Bridge and drops to the freeway in about 300 feet. Vehicles accelerate down this ramp and they make a lot of noise. Motorcycles are so noisy that if you're sitting in your house, you get the impression that they're doing wheelies all the way down that ramp. The experience is like someone running through our house with a leaf blower going full blast. It seems a lot of drivers like to test the performance of their cars, trucks, and bikes down that ramp. It's noisy, like a drag strip, and it happens on and off, day or night. I'm here because I hope the city will remedy this situation by building a wall that has been built in all the other neighboring communities. I thank you for your consideration of this matter and for letting me speak.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
The next speaker is Clinton Bear.
Please speak into the microphone and give us your name, please.
Yes, my name is Clinton Bear. I live at 12022 Winger. And good evening, Mayor. Nice to see you and council and staff. Thanks for having me. I, too, enjoy living and loving Brighton Parks. And we moved there with the same idea that it would be quiet and that everything would be for people that were 55 and older, and I'm older. So anyway, we do have the same problem that's been heard before. We actually back up onto the field that abuts the parkway and about midway. And as the previous speaker mentioned, that the on-ramp onto the parkway is kind of like a racetrack. We feel like we're at the drag races or maybe at the racetrack by the sounds that come down that way with motorcycles, cars, and what have you. I know the policing has a lot to do with that, but I know they're busy elsewhere. We're asking, of course, that maybe the council would take the time to come out and go behind some of the large walls that have been constructed and to kind of take the tour of how the parkway has been recessed that made the wall even higher. We have engineers and all that tell us about decibels. I don't know that. But I can tell you the easiest way to know what our situation is to go over behind some of those walls and then come over to my home. I'll be glad to serve you iced tea and a cigar or whatever you enjoy the best. And you'll see that we can't stay out there long and visit because it's so loud. Even our little dog won't go out anymore because it's just the noises are just really amazing. So it again is our request, Anna Bear and I, that you might consider erecting a wall, the only wall that is missing along that whole area. It's kind of like having a front tooth out of your mouth as you communicate or as you commune to and fro from the parkway to Allen and back. We really need that. And our fear now with what we have is that if the other area is opened up, that we're going to have extreme amounts of noise, not only going east but coming west. We're hearing a lot more trucks now as they slow down. They use the Jake brakes and things of that sort. So I could go on, but I could just say that we would appreciate your consideration in every way to assist us in getting a wall erected so that we can enjoy our peace that we've enjoyed. So thank you very much for having me here, and I appreciate all of your attendance.
Thank you, Mr. Bear. Madam Clerk.
Sue Glenn.
Please speak into the microphone and give us your name, please.
Good evening, Council. My name is Sue Glenn, and I'm also a resident of Brighton Parks, and I have a little personal story to tell you why I want a sound wall. I moved to Brighton Parks in 2006, And at about the same time, I was diagnosed with a severe case of osteoporosis, which is a disease affecting many times older women, and it can be a crippling disease. There is no cure. There are some medications you can take, but all of the doctors I consulted said the number one thing you can do is walk. It's the best thing for osteoporosis. So I started walking. I walked in the morning, I walked in the afternoon, I walked in the evening, I walked in the ice-cold winter, I walked in the hot, blistering heat of summer, and I walked some more. In 2010, my femur broke, the thigh bone, which is the strongest bone in your body, except if you have osteoporosis. Ironically, this was caused by medication I was taking at the time for osteoporosis. After I healed, the doctor said, keep walking. So I walked more. I enjoyed my walks between 2006 and 2013 so much because it was so quiet. I could just commune with nature. I could hear leaves rustling. I could see the trees swaying. I could see the hawks soaring above, and it was so peaceful. Then the freeway was built, and I have to keep walking, but now I wear earbuds when I walk to block the whoosh. It's a constant whoosh. And, you know, everybody thinks older people are all deaf. We're not deaf. We just can't filter background noise. And that background noise becomes the most prominent thing we hear. So that's what I hear now when I'm walking. I think a sound wall would help and give me a sense of that serenity that I had before. So City Council, please build us a wall. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Madam Clerk.
The next speaker is Charlie Webb.
Charlie, welcome back. Please speak in the microphone and
Thank you,
give us your name.
I will.
Can you do this in 3 minutes, Charlie?
Watch me.
Okay. Actually, I'm going to give you an extra minute, so I'm feeling pretty good tonight. So you got 4.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Vice Mayor, Council, City staff, my name is Charlie Webb, and I'm going to be talking about a sound wall for Brighton Parks. Surprise. Brighton Parks is immediately adjacent to the West Side Parkway between Allen Road and Joyta Avenue. As you can see from this Google Earth photo, every neighborhood adjacent to the parkway near us has a sound wall, with the exception of Brighton Parks, which is the area adjacent to the parkway is shown in red. What are the requirements for a sound wall? Noise from the parkway must have increased by 12 decibels or more, either now or in the future. Just a little primer on noise. The decibel scale is not linear, it's logarithmic. A 10 decibel increase is a doubling in noise. So to go from 50 decibels to 60 decibels, it's twice as loud at 60 decibels as it is at 50. A 3 decibel increase is barely perceptible to the human ear. You can't even hear 1 decibel. 3 decibels is the minimum you can hear. City staff and the city's consultant Parsons says that the parkway has increased our noise in Brighton Parks by only 3 decibels, a barely perceptible increase. The citizens of Brighton Parks recently commissioned a study in Brighton Parks by Barron's and Associates. These are the results of 4 72-hour measurements that they completed. And as you can see, in a backyard along the West Side Parkway, on the northern perimeter of Brighton Parks, they measured 60 decibels. Away from the parkway, where the homes are less influenced by traffic noise, the noise was only 48 decibels. This shows that noise due to the parkway has increased by 12 decibels, at least 12 decibels. These homes that have 48 decibels are still being influenced by the parkway to a certain extent. Parsons, the consultant that was hired by the city, they took measurements out here in 2009 and ran a traffic model. And based on the future traffic patterns, they predicted the peak noise, hourly noise, in the year 2038 will be 64 decibels, anywhere from 62 to 64 decibels. The consultant that was hired by Brighton Parks took that exact same model, plugged in the more recent measurements that were made, and then turned off the traffic on the West Side Parkway. Basically said, what if the parkway didn't exist? These are the noise values that they came up with. As you can see, they're all less than 40 decibels or equal to 40 decibels. Their findings were that noise on the west side, from the West Side Parkway, the noise is more than 4 times louder in Brighton Parks than it was before the parkway was constructed. The noise has gone from 40 decibels to 60 decibels. And when that Centennial Corridor is connected to the West Side Parkway, it's going to go up even more. Yet city staff and Parsons continue to say that the increase is only 3 decibels, which is barely perceptible by the human ear. Therefore, we request that city staff work with Brighton Parks to complete a report on the sound wall, work with Brighton Parks, not just present us a study. And secondly, the city staff and Brighton Parks jointly present the findings and recommendations to the City Council. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. Mr. Smith, you have a comment?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you for your presentations, and I know we've been out there for years now and looking at different traffic studies and measurements, and I do appreciate your presentations and your work, and I believe we have something set up for September 21st with staff to go over it, and I do expect to make a recommendation to come back to council and see what the whole council thinks about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Mr. Rivera, you have something? Thank you all. Madam Clerk.
Augustin Tessio regarding
everyone's comments to everything that they've been saying
Speak clearly to the microphone and state your name, please.
I don't know if you guys know already, but I most likely you guys should. I don't know if the mayor is here today. He must be out of town, right? Whatever he was talking about practically earlier was practically all these parks today. I'm homeless, to let you guys know that. I've been homeless for 9 months, and I'm going to let you guys know something that's real, and it's actually the truth and guaranteed for anybody who's actually, all these questions are coming out of, from anywhere around Bakersfield. This is very serious, and this is actually, how you say it, a fungus-like type of water, which is going to Lake Ming, and is coming actually from all these parks, from being here for so long. And the reason why is because these trees have been broken to their sewer lines and are blocking the crap that we take in these parks to settling into these parks and not be moved for a long time. So what he's practically saying is 60, what were you saying? 60 what? which is believable. Wilson Park right now is the center of the west side practically. It's in between the middle of Bakersfield. It's practically being holded by the sewers breaking. There's a tree that follows itself. There's a pattern over the dog zone areas of each of these parks. And what's happening is practically where the roots broke into the sewers. So everyone's crap is practically holding in place under the ground, and it's taking a long time practically that the city is not doing their job and not fixing this for anyone. And it's coming up from the bottom of the ground to where it's being heated, coming up, and we're breathing this in. And everyone is practically getting sick, which she has herself, the lady that was here just talking about, she had got a disease or something, whatever it was. It all connects together practically. Hart Park too, since it's been man-made lake, it's just like a pond. When you leave a pond and don't fix it at all, it's gonna mildew and get fungus all over. And over a time limited, it's gonna come from up the high level to down to where Wilson Park's at, to all the way to Lake Ming. It's a very long thing to say practically, but if you guys get the hint, I think the mayor already knows already, but he just hasn't said anything to no one. And he's getting everyone sick. Everyone has to go to get medication. Look at everyone today. Now today is not feeling positive at all. Everyone is stressed out, and I could fix this and if everyone helps each other. I'm a very intelligent person. I might not sound like it right now because I just rushed into something so fast because I'm just sick of this already, and it needs to stop, and we need to help each other. And remember, the real law is what God had said from the beginning, and to help each other, to care about each other, trust each other. No one can even trust each other no more in this world. And this is not just goes for Bakersfield. Bakersfield is the red zone for everyone up north and south, and everyone hit Bakersfield to where it made it even a worse disaster altogether, to make everyone be curious and worried and abused and not even know anything of positive now, and to just think nothing but negativity, just like the presidents themselves this day. And it's a very scary thing, but to me it's not, because I actually could fix these things also with your guys' help, and whichever you guys have in your brain, you know what knowledge you have, you already have worked with.
Okay, would you please bring your statement to a conclusion, please?
Yeah, it's 17 more seconds. Well, it's the inbox practically. You guys been using history, not repeating it, but abusing it. You're not using it the right way. And it's time for this new generation to help each other out, to actually realize the outbox is could join. Well, you guys all could help each other. People that are outside in this world who could actually help the people that are just sitting down, not doing nothing, and just having other people work for them.
Okay,
they should actually experience it
we will
themselves.
look into that. I'm going to ask Mr. Parlier wants to make a comment down here at the end.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, if I can ask you to have community relations or someone within your organization reach out, see if there's any services we can help this gentleman with. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to look into something and help you, okay?
No, it's nothing of helping me at all. This is to help everyone in this world. It might sound like it might be me, but I'm telling you what it is, nothing but the truth. I didn't come down here and just sit down for all this time just for the wait.
Okay.
But I understand that. Thank you for your time. But you'll understand later on things are going to get worse because of what's happening in Bakersfield.
Okay,
thank you for your time. Out of respect, have a good day.
Thank you. You too. Madam Clerk?
Section code 83.
The last speaker is Alexandra Reyes, and he has not provided a subject matter.
Please speak into the microphone and state your name, please.
Good evening. My name is Alexandra Reyes, and I'm here to speak about Flames Hookah Lounge and Cigar. According to GoldenStateEmpire.com, in an article titled "Local Activist Grandson Fatally Shot Near a Hookah Lounge," BPD said is a gang hangout, by Ann Di Grazia, excuse the butchering of the name. Since September of 2010, BPD has had an alarming amount of calls for services and seven shootings related to this establishment, far more than any other hookah lounge in town. This business establishment has had 6 years to step up their security measures or make changes to their venue to attract a different crowd. My son Carlton Bruce Mosley III, whom I raised by myself, worked hard to take care of his family. He attended Bakersfield College and majored in business just like myself. His life was taken for what? Being at the wrong place at the wrong time? Or was his life taken because he pulled into a parking lot filled with loitering underage and under the influence minors? In conclusion, for the last 6 years, Flames Hookah Lounge and Cigar has made no improvements. And as parents, it is our job to protect our children. It is too late to protect mine, but there is still time to protect yours. Please help me to shut down this establishment that has been nothing but a nuisance to our community from day one. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Madam Clerk?
The next item is under Workshop 6A, California Water Service Company, request to the CPUC to recover drought expenses.
Thank you. Mr. Talia.
Good evening, Vice Mayor Hansen, members of the council. Just a brief, Steve Talia, City Manager's Office. Just a brief introduction into tonight's topic. You all may recall that the recent franchise agreement that the city has with California Water Service Company, which was updated at the end of last year, included a new provision which required Cal Water to provide the city with notice anytime that they were looking to increase potential rates in the Bakersfield service area through a request with the PUC, the California Public Utilities Commission. Recently, city staff was notified that on July 15th, Cal Water submitted 2 advice letters to the PUC. One of them, advice letter 2225, was designed to eliminate the drought surcharge program that had been in place, and city staff had no issue with that, and we support that. And then an additional advice letter, 2226, was a request to the PUC to recover drought expenses. And these are drought-related expenditures that Cal Water has incurred throughout their system in California in the amount of about $4.2 million. And they're looking to seek a surcharge to recover those costs through this advice letter process. That would equate to roughly a 3-cent increase per CCF for 12 months for metered customers, and roughly a total of $14.87 spread over 12 months for flat rate customers. The advice letter process, which is being utilized here, does allow for a protest period. For these 2 advice letters, that period was set to expire on August 4th of this year. So consistent with council policy and the concern that the city and the council has had related to Cal Water rates, the city moved forward with filing a protest letter for advice letter 2226 related to the recovery of drought expenses. And we also requested that Cal Water be present tonight to provide additional information and dialogue with the council. So with that, we have representatives from Cal Water who will take it from here and provide a presentation and answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Steve. Please state your name.
Certainly. Good evening, Vice Mayor and council members. My name is Greg Milliman. I'm with California Water Service Company. I am in charge of the southern districts, and I'm housed here in Bakersfield. With me tonight also is Susan Cordone. She's our interim conservation manager, and she's also in charge of the southern district. So she's here as well because she's worked a lot on the programs that we implemented, and you might have questions that she would have more detailed answers on, so I wanted to make sure that she was here. So with that, I'll just jump right into my prepared remarks. And I'll start with we appreciate and sincerely thank you for providing this opportunity to talk to you tonight. And we want to present some of the information about the changes to our Cal Water's drought response plan. First, in light of the changes to the emergency regulations, as Steve just indicated, that were adopted by the State Water Resources Control Board, we submitted a request to the PUC to move from stage 2 to stage 1 on our water shortage contingency plan. And the principal effect of that to our customers is to temporarily remove the surcharge, and that is effective as of July 29th. And that is effective now. For any bills received after July 29th, any surcharge on that bill will be removed from those bills, kind of tied to a timing of when the bills come out. In addition to that, we have moved from the state mandated 29% required reduction from 29% compared to 2013. We've removed that, and now we're at a 9% conservation target. As you know, given the seriousness of the drought and the steep mandates adopted by the board, the state board, Cal Water implemented a system of water budgets and financial penalties for exceeding budgets to set a clear price signal to customers to incentivize water use reductions. All told, Cal Water's drought response plan was successful. And yeah, why don't you go ahead and hit that slide. From June 2015 to May 2016, our customers in Bakersfield saved over 7.6 million gallons of 7.6 billion gallons of water, or a 31% reduction over what our customers used in 2013. In order to achieve those savings, we implemented a comprehensive, customer-first designed conservation to provide our customers with tools and information to meet the mandates imposed by the state. For example, in 2015, as you can see there, we aired more than 2,000 TV and cable spots, more than 30,000 movie theater spots, over 150 radio spots and about the drought, as well as Cal Water's industry-leading conservation programs. In addition to that, over 8,500 calls from our customers in Bakersfield were received in the Drought Center and processed. More than 125 pieces of direct mail about the drought went out to our customers here in Bakersfield. And we gave 120 presentations on the drought and Cal Water's conservation programs here in Bakersfield. Again, it was because of these efforts that we were able to save 7.6 billion gallons of water, or reduce our water usage by 31% over 2013. It's important to note that Cal Water's standard rates reflect the actual cost of providing clean and reliable service to our customers. We do not have a reserve fund that we can draw upon on rainy days or unpredictable events, and such an event is the governor's April 2015 executive order and the ensuing State Water Resource Control Board or emergency regulations. When these type of unpredictable events arise, the expenses Cal Water incurs are tracked in a separate account and reviewed by the California Public Utility Commission to determine if they are justified and reasonable before they can be added to a customer's water rates. In July, Cal Water asked the Commission to review the expenses incurred in 2014 and 2015 in response to the drought emergency regulations adopted by the State Water Resources Control Board. Across all 25 of our service areas and 500,000 connections in California, we incurred about $1.6 million in costs and drought-related expenses during the years 2014 and 15. We asked the Commission to review $4.2 million of those expenses, which basically equates to about under $9 per connection for drought-related activities. We asked the Commission to review a fewer expenses than we incurred in the interest of transparency. If a drought-related expense occurred that would have otherwise been handled like a normal incurred expense, we removed it from our request for recovery. An example would be an already employed customer service representative responding to a drought-related question. Something like that would not be included in our request. If the Commission determines that the expenses are prudent and reasonable, our customers in Bakersfield with water meters would see an additional charge of about 3 cents per every 715 gallons of water they use. For a typical customer in Bakersfield using about 18,000 gallons of water a month, they would have roughly a 76, this would equate to about 76 cents per month. For our customers without meters, it would be $1.24 per month for customers that don't have meters. And as Mr. Telia pointed out, it's important to note that the filing we made with the Commission, we made an error and we included the annual amount for customers without meter as the monthly amount for the customers without meters of $14.87. That is actually the annual amount. We're correcting that, so the monthly amount would be $1.24 for customers without meters. After the 12 months, these extra charges for 2014 and 15 will drop off of the customer's bills. All told, our drought response expense amounts to about, you want to hit the slide? Oh, you did. Thank you. All told, our drought response expense amounts to about 1/100th of a penny for each gallon saved in Bakersfield. The obvious question is whether the efforts undertaken by Cal Water were worthwhile. There are a few ways to approach answering that question. First, given the severity of the statewide drought and the very real possibility that the State Water Resources Control Board would impose substantial fines on water utilities that did not meet the conservation mandates, Cal Water opted to aggressively respond to the drought and do everything possible to meet the targets imposed by the states. And that is exactly what we accomplished in Bakersfield. Second, since media markets are not segmented in the city, Cal Water's drought and conservation outreach provided at least some benefit to the city, the customers of the city system, and helped them achieve its 26.2 reduction in water use. Third, even assuming that a 26% reduction could have been achieved without the benefit of Cal Water's comprehensive drought response plan, Cal Water customers saved an additional 1.1 billion gallons of water over a 26% reduction. To put that in perspective, saving that amount of money, that amount of water over an entire year would serve about 4,000 of our typical customers in Bakersfield. Finally, even though the board has relaxed its drought regulations for the time being, the prospect of new conservation and drought regulations loom just over the horizon. The efforts we undertook in 2015 and 16 leave us well positioned to effectively and efficiently respond to whatever those new regulations end up looking like. We are the first to admit that there are portions of our drought response plan that can be improved upon. We are focused on learning what worked well, perhaps more importantly, what opportunities we have to do a better job next time around. We also had the opportunity to meet with a lot of the council members before this evening. We thank you for that opportunity, and because we wanted to spend the time necessary where you might have some more detailed questions to educate you about this issue and provide better service to both you and the citizens of Bakersfield. So in those meetings, there were a few questions that we weren't able to answer, and I want to bring up and provide those responses to you now for the questions that we were able to find out upon. So Councilmember Weir asked us about how much we would spend in 2016 related to the drought expenses, because again, this request here is for 2014 and 15. And I spoke with our Director of Drought Response and Conservation on the matter, and he said for 2016 he doesn't have an estimate yet. But he said he believes the bulk of our expenses for 2014 and 15 occurred in the last half of 2015 after the governor's emergency declaration and the State Water Board's regulations. So since those have now ended in the latter half of 2016, he believes that we'll have comparable expenses in 2016 to what we've had in 2014 and 15. Councilmember Weir and Maxwell, you also asked what's happened with the drought surcharges implemented last year, how much has been collected, and why it isn't being applied to recovery expenses. So I have an update on the number. Through the end of 2015, we had received $5.3 million in drought surcharges. Updating that number through the end of June 2016, the number is now $8.8 million that we've received in drought surcharges. This drought surcharge served two purposes: to incentivize customers to use less water and to ensure that we could provide a dependable supply of clean water to our customers at a critical time. The recovery of expenses that we've talked about today relate primarily to education and direct conservation efforts we took to help our customers understand the daily water usage and personal steps they could take to adjust their daily habits. Finally, Councilman Parlier, you asked us where Bakersfield ranks among other cities with their drought response expenses. And you can, is there one more slide? No. Oh, okay. All right, and with that, All cities in California served by Cal Water will see the same 3 cent per 750 gallon surcharge, per 750 gallons used for any metered customers, and that would be based on the amount of water that they use in that particular area. So with that, that's the end of my prepared remarks, and we're open for questions from the council.
Thank you for that presentation. Anyone else from Cal Water wish to make a statement? Okay, with that, Mr. Rivera.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Well, congratulations, Bakersfield. This is what I got from the presentation and what I just heard. We saved over 7.6 billion gallons, which totaled a 31% reduction in overall usage. So we achieved a 31% reduction. We saved 7.6 billion gallons of water, and now we're going to stick you with a bill for more money. That's what I heard tonight. That's why I'm always increasingly frustrated with this process. I appreciate the fact that you guys are here and presenting this, and I know this was part of the agreement we reached on our franchise, but the fact that that money spent in 2014 and 2015 can now potentially be recovered from ratepayers is laughable and quite frustrating for me. The reality is, and I heard you say it, that Cal Water doesn't have a reserve fund, but really, in truth, it has an endless reserve fund, and it's every single person sitting in this room. And every year, it seems, or every 3 years, that reserve fund is tapped in one way or another. And I'm sure I don't speak for just myself, but truthfully, I'm quite fed up with being asked to spend any more money. And one of the, and this isn't your fault, but one of the most frustrating components of all of this is that, especially in a drought when everyone has struggled, when I can ask Art Cianello and he can tell me that he doesn't have someone he can go to ask for $8.8 million, I think, over the last 2 years in drought surcharges, and then an additional reimbursement of costs associated with that. Businesses certainly didn't get a chance to do that. Farmers certainly didn't. They actually had to stop doing their job. That meant people lost their jobs. No one gets to do what you do. And, I don't think that's fair, but that's the way it works. That's the way it's set up in California. And I have no doubt that some portion or all of your requests will in one way or another be approved, which will continue to frustrate me. All the while we fight your rate increase, which will likely be approved in one way or another, in some fashion or another as well, only to then begin the process again for your next rate increase that, so long as I have breath in my body and energy in my bones, will fight as well. I know that we submitted a letter through Dwayne Morris before the August 4th deadline in protest to this particular advice letter and request, but I'd like to ask that we actually pen something from the council as well. It may fall on deaf ears, and it certainly may not get the consideration it deserves, but it certainly doesn't mean we should be quiet on this issue. If anything, I think we should get louder. So I'd like to make that request of staff and ask that we do that as quickly as possible. Try and get something out within the next week. I think that's important, and I think it's important we all go on the record as strongly opposing this particular request. Thank you.
Can I make a comment on that?
You may.
All right. I just want to let you know that the process is designed to be open to parties that want to be involved. And I heard your concern on the process, but there is a mechanism to do it. The Water Division that reviews what the expenses will be have suspended this filing so that they have adequate time to review it. So they've suspended this to early December. So I just wanted to let you know that there is a process that's designed for the public, for cities and counties to be involved.
Vice Mayor, I have no faith in the process. That's my point. So, with all due respect, I understand it may be open or public, but I have absolutely no faith in that process. That's really my point. But I appreciate your response. I'd actually like for them to just delay it inevitably, but I understand that's not going to happen. So thanks anyway.
Thank you. Mr. Maxwell.
Oh, thank you, Vice Mayor. You stated that the average bill would go up by 76 cents for somebody using about 18,000 gallons of water. Why did you state it for 18,000 gallons of water? Is that the median? Is that the average?
Yes, that's the average of what our customers use, a typical residential customer.
Okay. Within your whole district or just in Bakersfield?
Within Bakersfield.
Okay. I just want to make sure that was that way. And in the meeting that we had, you know, I share the frustration with my colleague. None of us look good right now. None of us. We don't look good because there's nothing we can do. You don't look good because, as Councilmember Rivera pointed out, you do have an unendable source of increasing the water rates on people, and the CPUC seems to be complicit in allowing that to happen. I don't think they have the best interest of our constituents, and that's what we're responsible for. I don't view Cal Water as trying to gouge people. I understand you have increase in costs, but it seems to me that on a situation like this, the real answer is that in your business model, there should be some way of anticipating these type of needs, and that when you anticipate these type of needs, you have the reserve account to spend the money that you know that you're going to be required to spend in order to try to accomplish what the state wants you to accomplish. If it's 31% or if it's 10%, whatever percentage it is, it does take a certain outreach to the community to try and accomplish that. And in our conversation, I know that the CPUC doesn't trust you with the money, and certainly we don't trust them with the money. So it makes it very difficult. But it just seems to me that in the business model that you have, that should be something you anticipate, because I can guarantee you there was going to be another drought in California at some point. And it doesn't seem right that every single time we have a drought, when everybody's hurting, like Councilmember Rivera said, at the end of it, somebody gets to recoup their costs, yet none of the rest of us did. So I would highly suggest that you, as a business, tell us how we can help you to go to the CPUC, to do something so that there is a reserve fund that you go after, because I don't like being put in this position where I understand what a public utility is all about. Our responsibility to the public is to provide them with water. And unfortunately, that puts us in a bad position because you really have a unique position. You have no competition. And so because of that, it's only one body that's going to be able to tell you and to us what happens to our rates. It's unfortunate, but that's what happens when you have only one provider. And so that would be my suggestion, that somehow work with us. Figure out how we can make it so that in the future we're not talking about you recouping $4.2 million of your expenses in order to educate the public. That's something that is built into what you do. So thank you.
Thank you for the comment.
Thank you, Terry. Mrs. Sullivan?
Thank you. Well, appreciate you having given an FYI to each one of the council members. And now you're here so the community can hear what is happening. Okay, of course, the reserve fund would come from the users. You know, if there was a reserve fund, of course, it would come from the users. Now, what I'm not understanding the reasoning, how many water companies are there that serve Bakersfield?
Let me ask Rudy. 4.
4, okay. Then why is it that it's only the Cal Water customers that are needing to pay for all of the information given to the entire county, basically, you know, Cal Water took it upon themselves to get out this important information. And it was, you know, certainly we all became aware of the fact that there was a drought and that we needed to cut back. We had a mandate of conservation that we needed to work within. But now, the burden is on the back of only the Cal Water customers. Is that correct?
Yes, for the expenditures.
Well, how is that fair? I mean, how did you determine how many pieces, how many hard copies you would send through the mail, and how many newspaper ads, and how many radio ads, and movie ads, and all of that for Cal Water to do? And then it should have been divided between all of the water companies, so the expense could be shared by everyone in Bakersfield, not just the Cal Water people.
Do you want to address?
Yeah, I don't know if my mic is live. With regard to the mail, the distribution of hard copy mail was sent only to Cal Water customers. The outreach that we performed throughout the community just so happened to benefit the entire geographic area. It was not necessarily planned, let's go into the other districts. It's just we wanted to ensure that the momentum for saving water under the drought emergency requirement reached our customers, certainly the folks in the outlying and other areas within the Bakersfield area benefited from getting the message. So it wasn't, the direct mail was specifically just for Cal Water customers.
Okay, what would your guess be? What is the percentage of water users that Cal Water serves within our city limits? Do you have an answer for that?
The percentage of customers?
Right. In comparison to the other three water companies, Cal Water is how large in comparison?
Two-thirds. Two-thirds of the area.
Two-thirds. Okay. Well,
hang on. Can we get back to you on that?
but would you say
Yeah.
approximately as far?
I'm thinking Cal Water's 71,000 customers. The city of Bakersfield's about 40,000 customers. But then we have East Niles, Vaughn Water, north of the river, and I don't know the connections on those. So I don't know if we cut. Two-thirds sounds a little high to me.
Right.
I could be wrong. It just sounds a little high to me.
Well, the higher, the better, as far as I'm concerned, because, you know, then that would more justify why only the Cal Water people are being charged for this. So it's interesting how, you know, you chose the way to inform the community, which was important. But I don't think any of us realized that we were going to be charged for this information being given. And I think many of us were under the impression that the increase in rate was to cover the cost of upgrading your infrastructure and your equipment and the continual replacement of lines and that type of thing, rather than paying for the FYI. To me, it would be more worthwhile to be paying for things that we were really all using rather than the information. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, for clarity, this 3 cents per 750 gallons, or 76 cents per month, that is to solely pay for the conservation and drought-related expenses to educate our customers and provide devices on how to use water more efficiently. It does not have any bearing or use on our normal operations related to operating the system or replacing plant. That's covered by our water rate. This is a separate, unusual type event that we don't like to put in a normal water rate, because this hopefully will be over this year with this coming winter, but it's an isolated event. So you wouldn't want that as part of your normal operating expenses, because when that event goes away, then you have a water rate that's picking up an unusual event that's no longer there. So that's why we track it separately outside of normal operations.
I see. And really, I'm sure has been a lot of misinformation, because in reality, 76 cents per month for the new metered customers is not that much. And even $1.24. And with the plan for everyone to become a metered customer, that's really fair, because the ones with small lots should not be charged the amount that a larger lot with a pool, for instance. So eventually, it's certainly a fair trend to be going to meters. But who is paying for the meters?
That would also be the customers of the system, of the Bakersfield system.
Now, is it just Cal Water that's going to the meters, or is it everybody? Is it the other water companies also? Do you know?
Everyone in the state's required to have
I see.
metered connections by the year 2025.
I see, okay. That's interesting, and basically a good thing. So, everything continues to go up, and we are fortunate really that we do have clean water, and that it is maintained, and we're having our water lines continually improved and updated. So it does cost, and so it is the customer that gets, that ends up being charged. So it's just a way, it's a way of life, and it's something we are faced with, and I won't say stuck with, I won't say that, but that we're faced with. And when we focus, I appreciate the fact that you did have the two amounts as part of your display, because it's something we were each one able to write down and now refer to, that it is less than $1 and a little bit more than $1 per month. And we are gradually going to the meters, which is a good thing. And so that's just what it is. So anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jackie. Councilmember Weir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just a question, and then a question I had that maybe we haven't answered yet. So did you state that the 2016 drought-related expenses are going to reflect basically what was spent in 2014 and 15?
Yes, I did.
So it's going to be about $5 million?
That's what it would appear to be. That would be a good number to use.
Okay. That number seems high. Since the heart of the drought was 14 and 15, and we did $2.5 million in software expenses alone for 2014 and 15. It seems a little high, but if that's what the projection is, that's what it is. One of the questions I ask is, well, let's look at it from maybe a consumer perspective. Consumers are getting dinged surcharges, and what we were told, whether it was true or not, was surcharge revenue is going to be used to pay nothing but drought-related expenses. Okay, whether that's right or wrong, apparently it wasn't correct. So now we have a situation where I think in a good part of the public's perception is they were surcharged money to pay for the drought expenses, but that's not where the money went, because the money went to backfill for your decrease in water sales. Is that correct?
Yes, it was used so that we could pay the bills to deliver the water.
Okay. So now, one of the questions I had for you was, if we spent, well, if you spent $2.5 million specifically for drought-related computer programming to get the bills to kick out with the budget and calculate the surcharge and all that, how are we being dinged for that separate and apart from what we've already paid as a surcharge? It's going to be a very difficult explanation for me, and I assume my colleagues to explain to a constituent that calls.
Okay, let me address that. For starts, I researched some of the stuff, the questions that you had, and as you know, there's the $4.2 million for company-wide expenses. Of that, $1.7 million was related to payroll for people that work directly on the drought, and then those employees that would respond to after-hours leaks, things that we normally wouldn't attend to. But anyway, so, and then there was $2.5 million of non-payroll expenses. That $2.5 million is not all software. There's call it $800,000 that's related to the software programming. The other costs were related to the outreach efforts that we talked about here tonight, doing mailers, doing the postage on the mailers, hiring people to help us develop the drought programs in consulting dollars. So that the software that you're referencing, that's roughly, as I said, $800,000. We've opted to put that into this expense bucket because it's something that is not, it's a one-time expense for us. It's not something that is going to provide, it's not part of the normal expenses.
Well, I understand that. It's not part of the normal expenses. But even in your submission, I mean, the submission that you made to the PUC specifically lays out that these are significant IT expenses. But apparently it's more than just IT expenses. It's consulting and advertising and...
Yes. So to follow up with your question from when we met, the attachment B, it has a column that's, it has 6 columns with numbers in it. And it's 2014 expenses, 2015 expenses, then total expenses.
Right.
The next 2 lines over of recoverable expenses and excluded from the drought memorandum account, or excluded from these expenses, the 2 of those combined equate to the total expenses.
Okay.
Right? But the only thing that's being recovered is what was done on this schedule is we have a drought manager that reviewed the expenses that were booked to this to make sure that they were appropriate expenses to be incurred, that really did in fact have something to do with the drought. And the things that she removed are items that did not properly belong in the drought. So then from there, on that recovery requested amount of $5,014,000, if you go to attachment A, there at the bottom there's the $5,014,000, which we talked about, and our rates team then went through and did another review and said, what is already included as part of our normal rates?
Okay.
And they excluded things further to take it from the 5 million to the 4.2 to ensure that there was no double counting.
Okay. And I understand that, and I appreciate that, and maybe we're both getting a little too technical here, because really the essence of my question is, to a normal person, they've already paid the drought-related expenses. They've already done it. When they got surcharged, they paid it. And so now if they're hearing this tonight, they're finding out, no, we're paying more for drought-related expenses. And if they call your office, how are you going to explain that to them? I want to know how to explain that to them.
Certainly. Just as I said before, the surcharges were twofold. One, to incentivize conservation or reduced water usage, and the second was to fund the the costs that were associated with that dramatic reduction in sales, the real-life costs of operating the water system. The other drought expenses are expenses that are out of the norm, that are focused on educating our customers and providing them the conservation tools to not only enact change in the short term, but will provide a longer-term benefit on reduced water use. And that's how I would explain it, because that's what we've done.
Okay, thank you. You know, I appreciate you guys coming tonight. I appreciate you having a meeting with me and several other council members and giving us a chance to speak in private and talk about things and ask our questions. And, you know, I do appreciate this, and I think it's done a lot of good, even though the frustration on our side is increasing. So, thank you.
No further comments. Is there any action to be taken? Ms. Gennaro?
Mayor, council members, I don't believe so. We will take Councilmember Rivera's request as a referral to craft another protest letter to the advice letter.
Thank you. Thank you for your attendance.
Thank you for the opportunity. And again, you know where to get us. We'd like to keep the dialogue going. We want you to know what's going on so you can ask the questions, so you're well equipped to answer anything that your constituents ask you, and so you understand what our business is. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I want Mr. Rivera on my side when I pay my next PG&E bill.
Don't even get me started on that.
Okay. We'll have a 5-minute recess, and we'll be right back. Is ready to go? Okay, we're all in place. Madam Clerk. Mrs. Gafford.
Yes, the next item is a presentation of a draft ordinance relating to food vending vehicles.
Thank you. Ms. Gennaro, please.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I think that Councilmember Smith and Maxwell may have something to say first.
Thank you. Gentlemen?
Yeah, I will be recusing myself from this particular subject and decision based on an appearance of impropriety.
Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Thank you. I, Councilmember Bob Smith, will also abstain from the following agenda item due to the possible perceived conflict of interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Ms. Gennaro?
Thank you. Remaining members of the council, at the direction of the Community Services Committee, the legal department worked with various city departments, and we crafted a mobile food vending ordinance. The draft was unveiled at a recent community services meeting, and Mr. Iger made a PowerPoint presentation at that meeting. He is here tonight. He is going to give a very similar PowerPoint presentation to the one that the Community Services Committee reviewed. I will indicate to you, as will Mr. Iger, that there are some policy issues that must be determined by the council tonight before we finalize the ordinance and bring it back for first reading. So we are looking for direction from you tonight, if you are so inclined. Mr. Iger will begin the PowerPoint presentation, and then the building director, Mr. Burns, is here, as well as Lieutenant Grimes from the Bakersfield Police Department, in order to offer their perspectives from their various departments on some of these policy decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Vice Mayor and City Council members. Tonight, I'm going to, like Ms. Gennaro stated, repeat some of what was stated at the Community Services meeting of August 4th. But what we're dealing with here is really, it's a new ordinance from the ground up on food trucks, or what the ordinance calls them, food vending vehicles. And so while food vending vehicles or food trucks is not a new industry, it is recently seeing a resurgence in popularity, and they're coming to towns such as Bakersfield. We actually have two of the biggest names in downtown here tonight with Curbside and Pita Paradise, and I believe one or both of them may offer comments later. And so what we're really dealing with is fixing something that, like I stated, had no comprehensive rules before in the city. They basically operated on what we could Band-Aid together, which was a transient outdoor business permit, which didn't really apply because that is meant for businesses that only last for 120 days. And these food trucks aren't designed to only be there for 120 days. They want to have year-round operations and serve their customers. The only other regulation in place is also not really applicable because who could make food and sell food in 10 minutes because we had a parking requirement or limitation on the streets for people that were selling items to only park for 10 minutes. So as you see, we didn't really have anything that fit the new trend of food trucks. And here's actually a picture of the ones that exist downtown. You see Pita Paradise right there by 21st Street Florist. And Curbside, it's across the street from where the Padre Hotel is. Both great locations here downtown. And as a recap of what happened at the Community Services meeting of August 4th, we had a decent discussion about a lot of different topics. The committee members made comments on general regulations from everything from whether or not we should allow tables and chairs, what the hours of operations would be, what the recommended distance from a brick and mortar restaurant would be. And also one of the big ones was the original proposal was to have more than one operate on private property in the downtown area or CB only, but at the committee's request, we've expanded that on the draft ordinance you see to include the Central Commercial District or Commercial Center District, which is known as CC. It's interesting to note that that is not just around downtown, though. That includes areas such as the Bakersfield Commons and Allen Road, just north of Panama. And so at the end of the committee meeting, there still was no consensus on two of the biggest public policy issues. What do we want the distance from the brick and mortar restaurants to be, and how long do we want these to be able to operate? There was anything from recommending 24 hours to a 10-foot distance requirement to a 100-foot distance requirement. So that's one of the decisions the council will have to make tonight. And at the end of the committee meeting, it was referred to a workshop with full council, which is where we are right now. So here's some highlights from the proposed ordinance. First, the definition. A lot of people will ask, what is a food vending vehicle? And what we really kept it broad to try to capture any type of vehicle that's defined in the vehicle code that sells food directly to customers. What we exempted out were existing ice cream trucks or vehicle delivery services such as Schwann's or a pizza delivery guy, because that's not what the intent of this ordinance is. One big thing that we want to let everybody know about is that each food truck, whether on public property or operating on a private property, has to have at least one trash receptacle and one recycling receptacle. This is to cut back on the amount of garbage that's collected around these sites. That's often the biggest complaint we get from the citizens when there's a food truck around, is that they're leaving trash before they leave. So we're hoping that this would be the answer to that. We also, like I said, have a distance requirement from brick and mortar restaurants and a requirement that does not allow them to park near residential uses. And so staff's original proposal at the committee meeting, and most of this remains the same today, is a 30-foot distance from brick and mortar restaurants, a 300-foot distance from parks. The hours of operation, as you see there, would be from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. citywide, Monday through Saturday, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Sunday citywide, and every day in the central business zone would be from 6 a.m. to 1 a.m. The thought with that was there's more activity downtown later, so we would use that as a test case to see how the food trucks operating a little bit after hours would do. And also on the zoning, the original proposal was more than one on private property in CB. As you see in the draft ordinance that has expanded to CC, we also had the original proposal that one vehicle could operate on private property in C2, M1, and M2, or any zone with a conditional use permit. And so here's an example of what the distance requirements would be. So you see the green line there jutting out from what we defined as the primary frontage for customers of the restaurant. The 10-foot, which is what was recommended at the committee meeting, wouldn't really exceed past the sidewalk downtown because we have 12-foot sidewalks. So it wouldn't really accomplish the goal of not letting them park directly in front of the restaurant. The 30-foot blue hash mark that you see that staff recommended extends past the sidewalk and past the first part of the street, so that way nobody could park directly in front of a brick and mortar restaurant. If we extended it out to 100 feet, you can see that would impact across the street and then some other areas that may not even have visibility of the restaurant. But that's just giving you an example of what each of the distance requirements would look like when you consider those options. And as to zoning, here's what the current ordinance would allow zoning-wise. You see those green spots is where one food truck would be allowed to operate on private property. So it's a pretty good swath of the city there. And that yellow highlight in the downtown area is where more than one could operate on private property without having to obtain a CUP. And the reason for that was some businesses downtown were having a concept of a food truck court kind of thing where they could bring customers to areas that don't necessarily have restaurants, like near the hospital, where TV 17 is, and there's these big vacant lots. That was the idea behind allowing that use. And we originally wanted to keep it downtown to be a test case scenario because that's where those types of businesses are. And so we also pulled sample cities so you can see that we're not unique in doing this, but not a lot of cities have jumped into the food truck ordinance yet. And in fact, Caleb Bloschke from the city manager's office has received calls from other cities saying, once we're done, they want to see what we do because a lot of cities are just now considering these ordinances. So as you see, a lot of cities don't have any distance requirement from brick and mortar restaurants, but Fresno has 300 feet. One comment was made at the committee meeting that we should allow them to sell alcohol potentially. No city allows that. I don't think that's a good idea, but the Bakersfield Police Department will speak to that a little later on. And then the issue with tables and chairs, you can see most cities allow it, but some of those cities require CUPs in order to have tables and chairs on private property. And Mr. Burns, the Chief Code Enforcement Officer and Building Director, will speak to that a little later. And whether cities allow more than one on private property, you can see a lot of them are similar to us, where it's a yes in only specific areas, or yes with a conditional use permit. The idea with that is they don't want parking lots to appear cluttered with multiple food trucks at will. We want to try to control what the look of their areas are, which is the same thing that we want to do. We really want the city to still look good, but accommodate this new industry. As you see, the hours of operation are the ones it's kind of most all over the place. Some, like Pasadena, make them close up shop at 6 p.m., so they don't even really have a dinner crowd. Some, like Sacramento, let them go till 3 a.m., and then they could reopen again at 5 a.m. Why it's not 24 hours there, I don't really know. But it seems like the most common one is having to close either at 9 p.m. or midnight, which is consistent with what we have here in this proposed ordinance that you see. So there's also some additional requirements that are worth highlighting for the food trucks that operate in either the public right-of-way or on private property. So the highlights of the public right-of-way regulations are they must comply with the vehicle code and city requirements. What this really means is they have to legally park parallel to a curb in order to serve customers. They can't serve customers in the street. They can't serve to customers in vehicles. This is to try to help the public safety issue of a food truck operating on the street. They can't put signs, tables, or chairs allowed when they're in the public right-of-way because that would impede the pedestrian's right to use the sidewalk. They also, like I said earlier, must provide trash receptacles, and they have to contain all of the equipment in the food vending vehicle itself when they're operating in the public right-of-way. This is, like I said, it's a public safety issue because we're dealing with sidewalks that have to be ADA compliant, and we take that really seriously here. On private property, there's another layer of regulations. They have to have the written approval of the property owner, which we would assume they would get because they're going to be co-tenants on that property. The vehicle can only, as proposed in the ordinance you see, occupy either 3 standard parking stalls or 500 square feet. And Mr. Burns will address that in a little more detail later on. What's in the draft ordinance in front of you is that they can set up a maximum of 4 tables with shade structures and seating for 16 people. Mr. Burns is going to address that a little more, and he may have some comments on what he would like to see perhaps different than that. And also, as has been stated multiple times, we're only going to allow more than one food vending vehicle in certain zones. The ordinance that you have tonight, it's CC and CB, and then if it's in another zone, they have to get a conditional use permit. And so here's some interesting other regulations that were worth calling out because we didn't want to disrupt other types of operations that go on in the city. For instance, when Parks has an event, we don't want to say a food truck can't be there because that wouldn't really make sense when it's an event that's benefiting us. So as long as the Rec and Parks director gives them written consent, they could operate in a park. And then same thing with schools, universities, and hospitals, because they're often having events to do fundraising or have socials on campus. We didn't want to disrupt those events. And private catering events, I know a lot of people like to hire In-N-Out Burgers or some other place to come to their house and serve dinner to their party guests. We didn't want to disrupt that, so that's still an exception to this code. And so now, as I stated earlier, there's going to be some multiple staff comments. First, I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Jeremy Grimes, who's going to talk about hours of operation and public safety issues. And then Mr. Burns will talk about the tables, chairs, parking area, and signs.
Honorable Vice Mayor, members of the council. In looking at the beats that encompass the downtown area, this time frame's analyzed for this period of 10 p.m. to 3 a.m., where we're looking to have a more restrictive time of operation. This area sees an average of approximately 250% more calls for service than on average of the other zones. And so that would be an extreme burden on an already stretched thin force and resources. Also, when we see areas where there's places for congregation after bars close and nightclubs and things of that nature, it results in a higher likelihood of criminal activity and violent crime. Also, things such as no age restrictions also cause problems when you intermix adults but under the 21 age crowd with those who have been in the bar nightclub scene. Such we have seen with the Hookah Lounge. It provides a mixed crowd, and it usually can lead to higher crime and violent crime. The other issue we're looking at is the public health issue of having a lack of restrooms after hours of operations, and Mr. Burns will expand on this some more, but that can lead to the public health of having no facilities available for the customers to use. In looking at the issue of the question of alcohol service, the alcohol beverage control basically has two types of permits, an on-sale and an off-sale. Being a food truck, there is no feasible place to have an on-sale. It is the truck itself. In an off-sale, the logic behind that is that the alcohol is purchased to be consumed off-site or somewhere else. So none of the alcohol permits would be permissible for a situation such as this. I'll turn it over to Mr. Burns.
Thank you. Phil Burns, Building Director. Honorable Vice Mayor, council members. If I can make this thing work. Wrong button. There we go. Sorry about that. I'm going to give you a little background. Staff has spent a tremendous amount of time looking at this ordinance, and there was questions at the committee meeting, and some of those things did not get answered, so I want to take an opportunity to give some background. First of all, with the location on street, staff had came up with the 30 feet recommendation, and that was looking at normal parking stall, typical of a 9 by 18 parking stall. And we're looking at a parallel parking stall that's about 22 feet long. So it would make, looking for something easy for a code enforcement officer or police officer to look at as far as distance requirement. Well, if you look at 30 feet, that's about a parking stall and a half. It was just something that was easy for a code enforcement officer or PD officer to review a distance and provided an adequate clearance. And it's easy to and quick to determine. Off-site, what we're looking at, planning would review a site plan, and the location of the food truck, it would be in excess parking. So planning would look at that parking lot, determine what the actual required parking stalls, and if there's excess, then they would be able to put a food truck on that site. Or if they had a site that was paved, and perhaps there was an area that's not striped, it's off to the side, that had the 500 square feet, then that would be the area that we're talking about. Again, the 3 parking stalls, 9 by 18, that's roughly 486 square feet, which is about 500 square feet. That's kind of where that number came from, and a recommendation from staff. I'm going to get to some examples in a minute, and we're going to base it on a food truck. Looking online, food trucks could be a trailer or truck. What we found is anywhere from a 16-foot trailer to up to a truck of about 26 feet long. So looking at our sizes or recommendations, that's what we took into account. And then tables and chairs, originally we were thinking that the structure was smaller. That's where the 4 tables and the 16 chairs came from. I'll show you some examples in a second that perhaps that may be too many tables or too many chairs. That's really up for council's decision. I also want to talk briefly about signs. At the committee, it was mentioned about additional signage. Just want to point out that the signage is actually in the sign ordinance. So we want to make sure if we're going to touch signage, it does have other implications. Signage is by zone district. So if we're going to do something different, there could be other underlying landmines we want to make sure that we look at and not just go into those. For instance, a A-frame sign that was brought up, that's actually a prohibited zone. So those are not allowed by any brick and mortar store in the whole city. So it's not something that we want to recommend that we have A-frame signs when they're actually prohibited. So it's something that needs to please take in consideration if we're going to go down that road, that's actually may take more discussion. And also keep in mind a food truck has their entire sign or the whole frontage of their entire truck to use as a signage, where brick and mortar, they are required to meet the sign ordinance. So they're actually getting a lot more signage coverage than what a brick and mortar has to start with. Now I want to get into some examples of on a private lot. What this diagram is showing is a standard 90-degree parking stalls. That food truck that's shown up in the top, that is actually a 26-foot food truck. The tables and chairs are shown there. That's a standard, like a card table. That's a 34-inch by 34-inch table, standard chairs. Just kind of give you some relationships of size, and that's with a parking lot with the bump stops. So you can see even at 3 tables and chairs in this scenario, not even showing an umbrella, that's really impeding the queuing area for a food truck. So I think staff would like to recommend perhaps that's too many tables and chairs. Perhaps it should be 0 or 1 or something less. I wanted to just kind of bring it up to council. Next diagram. This is a 45-degree parking stalls with the bump stops. Same food truck. Again, the same tables and chairs. This is a card table, which is a small table. This is not, a big, nice round table. This is a smaller table. And you can see that's protruding past the parking stalls out into the travel lane already. So again, I think perhaps we need to revise that and bring that down to a more manageable number of tables and chairs, perhaps a table with maybe 6 chairs. Get into an actual example of a parking lot. This is a parking lot, 8th Street and 18th Street. This is with Batesville, California by the Chamber. Staff actually took this as an example, had planning department check what the required parking were in this particular lot. What we found, there was actually a zoning mod for reduction in parking already given to the Californian, and this lot actually is owned by the Batesville Californian. Based on the information we found, there is not excess parking at this lot, so this would be a lot that staff would recommend that there would not be a food truck allowed. Just going to give you an example one. Another one that's came up for discussion, this is at 22nd L. This is right by the Channel 17 building. I think one of these lots have been used in the past for other functions. The lot to the west side that actually has a required 176 parking spaces, and that's actually owned by the Kern Community College District. Actually, both lots are. Staff couldn't find a parking agreement between the 2 lots. So based on existing information, we would not support the food truck on the west lot, but there would be multiple food trucks allowed on the north lot. If there was a parking agreement, that actually would affect the allowing on both lots. And to point out that those are both CC zoned. So it depends on how council goes with the CB zone or CB and the CC zone for its multiple trucks. If they went just to a CB zone, then a conditional use permit would be required for the multiple trucks. It's other potential issues we have. The Kern County Health Department requires a permit for all food trucks. And part of their permitting process, they have to have a bathroom facilities for their employees within 200 feet of the food truck. Now, that could be a parking lot owned by one individual and the bathroom facility owned by the business next door that's another individual. But it has to be within 200 feet, has to have hot and cold water. And part of the county requirements is that that other business where the bathroom is has to be open during the operating hours of the food truck. So I know there's some discussion about the operating hours, but it also plays into when that bathroom is available. And another thing that is required for their county permit is they have to go to the approved commissary on a daily basis. They're supposed to actually be mobile, go restock ice, water, and their supplies. So with I'll turn it back over to Richard.
Phil, I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Go back to that prior slide, please.
To this one?
Yeah. That one area that looks like, I believe that's the one you discussed, you could put a food court or whatever you want to call it in there. But are you telling me that if you had a restaurant within 200 feet, that would qualify for bathroom facilities?
If you could have a building, it could be a office building, something that's approved by the county health. It has to be something that has like a restaurant type of facilities where it has hot and cold water, paper towels, a operational bathroom facility. Can't be like something like a park. If you think about a park, that type of bathroom only has cold water. The county would accept that as an approved bathroom.
Well, what I'm getting at is I own a restaurant and the guy next door has got a lot available and there's one of these trucks within 200 feet. Do I have to make my bathroom available to the people that?
No, it has to be in a business that has allowed that food truck to use.
So they have to give permission?
They have to get permission, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and that wraps up our presentation, but after you hear comment from the audience and you guys discuss the direction you want to take on some of these questions, we will be looking for a motion on each of the remaining issues that need deciding. So some of them that are already in the draft ordinance, you guys may like how it's written, and then we could just put it forward as written. And then the other ones definitely need motion, such as the distance from brick and mortars, because we left that range open for discussion and for a decision from the city council. Hours of operation, if you like the way that it's written, where it's 10 p.m. citywide and 1 a.m. downtown, we can go with that, or you can decide something else. And then any other modifications, such as tables and chairs or the zoning, you can make a motion on that. And with that, I'll open it up to public comment or any questions.
Okay, thank you.
Harold, I have a quick question. Harold?
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jackie.
Yeah, Richard, a question. Now, are you thinking in terms of a designated location for the trucks? It showed, on the street.
So
but
what we would allow.
Would they have to find a parking place, or would that be set aside for them?
No, so if they were to park on the street, they would just have to find a legal parking space that they could park at. And on private property, they'd have to have a pre-approved from the planning department and city staff, a space allowing them to park. And along with that private parking one, they need the county health permit, which is a requirement for all food trucks in general. So there's a lot of regulations that go into where they will be able to locate.
Okay, but to find a location on the street that suits, that they think would give them a good day, then there would need to be a bathroom for the food servers to use, to be able to wash their hands?
What triggers that bathroom requirement is if they're located there for 2 hours, I believe, 30 minutes. So if they're parked for more than 30 minutes, then they would need an agreement to use a bathroom. So really the bigger emphasis you're going to see is on food trucks utilizing private lots, because that's where that's going to come into play. The street side food vending vehicles would have to move every 30 minutes or find a bathroom that would give them permission to park there.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay, thank you, Richard.
Thank you. I think the next order of business would be to, we have 5 speakers, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Let me remind the speakers, you have 3 minutes, okay, per speaker, so make your comments accordingly. Thank you.
Vice Mayor, the first speaker is Stephen Schreffer.
I recognize you. Please state your name.
Stephen Schrepford, Think Green Pedicabs. Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for everybody that's involved in addressing the concerns with the ordinances, because as a business owner, it means a lot to me and all the others that are in here to speak on that. I would like to see some ordinances in place, you know, in the positive way. I'm not sure that a time frame on it is appropriate, because there's 24-hour restaurants all over town, and whether they eat at our local food truck downtown or they go to Denny's, they're going to disperse and meet up. There's going to be fights at any of those locations. It's known. And as far as the location to a brick and mortar building, well, who's out there telling McDonald's they can't open up next door to Burger King or Carl's Jr.? Nobody's out there doing that. So a business is a business. Tax revenues from those businesses is a plus for the community. And I would just like to see, you know, the times left out, definitely on operations, just because there's a need for 24-hour food in and around the city. You've got hospitals that are open 24 hours a day, and they're on-site food services. Some of them shut down 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And most of the food restaurants or in the downtown area, they close at 10. And there's no food available after 10. So for those 24-hour businesses, it just makes sense. And as a business owner, it makes sense to be able to run 24 hours a day if that's what we choose to do so. Bathrooms are available, parking's available. That's what we would like to see. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
The next speaker is Joe Simpson.
Please state your name.
Good evening. My name is Joe Simpson. I own California Hot Dog Company. I'd like to thank the City Council for taking the time to listen to business owners here in downtown to talk about an issue that affects not only the brick and mortars, but also us little guys as well. I'm an Army veteran. I own a hot dog cart. I spent every dollar I had plus several $1,000s more in order to open my cart in a legal, safe, and ethical manner. I too am a business owner, and though I don't have a building, I do have a company to run, complete with business loans to pay, licenses, fees, insurance premiums, quarterly taxes, supplies, and customers to keep happy. I keep hearing this pushback from brick and mortars, the restaurants, on the mobile food issue, and that is their right, as it should be. I say stand up for what you believe in. Stand up for your financial well-being, for that of yours and your family. That being said, I see more illegal food operations in this town than I do the legal kind. As a mobile food vendor, I also have to compete with mobile food vendors. But my biggest competition isn't from a guy who's doing it legally and paying his taxes. My competition tends to be with a guy with a propane burner and a cookie sheet, selling illegal food very cheaply, and that makes it hard to compete. Where's the code enforcement on that one? Everybody knows these operations are out there, and they continue to operate all the time. I don't think that changing a bunch of rules is going to affect the people who are already breaking the rules. We have plenty of hoops to jump through in order to operate as a mobile food vendor in this city. Now I hear that they want to, tell us when we can operate and hours of operation. Like Stephen said, nobody's telling McDonald's they can't be open 24 hours. We're not talking about a bunch of kids with lemonade stands. We're business owners. We pay our taxes. We pay for our own way. I don't see why we wouldn't be able to operate the same as any other business at the hours of our choosing which is basically when the customers are wanting us to advertise, or not advertise, but to operate. That being said, I'm willing to concede 100 foot from brick and mortars. I work with a lot of businesses in my day job as an account executive in advertising, so I deal with a lot of restaurant owners, and I know a lot of them are worried about competition. So I would, gladly give them that 100 feet, but the hours of operation, I would definitely protest. So I ask that the council keep in mind that if the purpose of these proposed ordinance changes are to protect businesses from illegal and unethical practices, don't forget that us little guys are also local business owners too. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
The next speaker is Jerry Baranowski.
Good evening, Jerry. Please state your name.
Good evening. Just for the records, my name is Jerry Baranowski, and I'm advocating for the Mortal and Brick Restaurant. Vice Mayor Hanson, due to the barrier of my language, I would like to ask you if you allow me to speak longer than 3 minutes. Different way, I'm not going to be able to present in sequence all what I wanted to say today. And I will try my best.
Thank you.
On the beginning, I would like to ask all of you one simple question. How would you feel if you are building your dream restaurant, you find locations, sign a lease, or you have a chance to purchase a building, conduct the studies of your surrounding competition, and you make a real-life decision to open costly operation? Further on, you are dealing on daily basis how to bring patrons, daily, monthly deals, just to bring them in. You create an innovative menu. You work hard to establish your venue for many years. For instance, Jerry's Pizza, almost 25 years. But there is another lot of places like Luigi's, 24th Street Cafe, Marie Calendar, Gus Lunis. I'm not talking about the chain restaurant as well, which there are parts of our city. And again, question, when you are opening your doors to serve the public, what are you going to do if you see in front of your place a raw mobile food truck selling their own goodies, tacos, hot dogs, or maybe even pizza by the slices, right outside your door? Would you be upset? Would you be worried or angry? Would you ask, what are they doing here? How long are they going to be staying here? What am I going to do? This is not the fair competition. This is not even honest. This is not even right. This question is not only mine question. There are hundreds of the established restaurants in Bakersfield. None of them said they don't mind the truck or that it's cool for them to be in front of their doors. Just today morning, I spoke with one of the individuals, manager of Marie Calendar, this same opinion. As the deepest studies show, this battle is going across entire our nation. In many research, I have found the same issue in Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Portland, Seattle, and etc. Mr. Mortello, owner of Dairy Queen in North Kansas City, said during recent city council meeting is his hometown. They bring the truck in. They compete against us for 4 hours, and then they drive away. Another example of all kinds of articles from food truck divide Missouri town. Another article, food truck controversy spread nationwide, St. Louis. The Washington Post, DC food truck, April 2013. Madison food truck event causes controversy. Baltimore challenges to food truck, 300 feet. And finally, we have a Bakersfield article too. Bakersfield City Council will take up recent dispute over food trucks. In every one of these instances, the situation wherever the truck is not the issue if the truck should be in the city, but how close they should be able to and for how long mobile food vendors should be able to park outside an establishment eateries. But bottom line is everyone is fighting and competing for these same dollars.
Excuse me, Jerry, I did give you an extra minute. Could you, I think we know what you're coming at, where you're coming from. Could you bring your comments to a close, please?
Conclusion. In conclusion, I'm praying that our city council will use their wisdom to properly study and balance this issue. We do not want to create a conflict between mortar and brick restaurant and food trucks. Let everyone in harmony build their own American dream. After deep study, I would like to propose that 150 feet distance from brick and mortar restaurant is fair and right. This distance should be counted only during the hours of operation for the mortar and brick restaurant. It's not bother when we close and they are in front. And definitely 2 hours or 3 maximum in one place would be plenty. Also, there are one more thing. There was not mentioned anywhere in this proposed city ordinance that the food truck which violate the city ordinance, there will be proposal 3 times a year that should be revoked the license of operation. Thank you for letting me speak a little bit longer, and I submit my full speech to the...
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
The next speaker is Chris Gonzalez.
Please state your name, please.
Good evening. My name is Chris Gonzalez. I'm the co-owner of Curbside Kitchen, one of the trucks downtown. A couple of things. Number one, I don't believe we take business or customers from other restaurants. We park probably the closest to 2 big restaurants, the Padre and the Mark. I see hundreds of people every day that go from the parking structure, dress to go to the Mark or to the Padre to go eat. Not once I've seen them stop and said, oh, you know what? Let's just have dinner at Curbside. Those were not their plans. For lunch, we do see people that come, call in, they plan their day since the morning to have breakfast, lunch, or dinner at Curbside. That's how we operate. Number two, in the last probably 6 months, maybe I'm wrong, but I've seen Santa Fe that just opened up downtown. We have Victor's Grill that just opened up. We have Mi Peru that moved closer to downtown. Who else is there? There's a few more restaurants that I've seen and that I personally was a little scared because they opened up. And I said, wow, there's 5 restaurants that just opened up around me, and they're going to destroy me. First of all, they have AC. I don't. They have tables and chairs. I don't. They don't run out of food. We run out of food all the time because we can't store so much food. So once we're out of burgers, you're stuck with whatever else we have. So those were some of my fears. And so far, they haven't affected me. We're still, making our same sales, is still being strong. So and they still have their customers. I'm personally friends with Victor's Grill, and they are doing really good. And those were probably my biggest competitor in the Mexican world, tacos and burritos and stuff like that. And they're doing really good. So I don't think we're affecting anybody downtown or anywhere else. My first truck that I opened up, it was in 2002, and that was just for construction. This was not even close to in my mind that we will have a truck downtown or parked. The reason why we open from 7 in the morning to 3, just do the morning crowd and the lunch crowd, and then we'll take off. By the health department code, we have to take our trucks to our facility. That's why I don't think they'll allow us to be 24 hours, even though the city approves it, but I don't think the county will approve it because we have to take our trucks and dump our water, refill them, charge them up, batteries, etc.
Please bring your comments to a close.
So that's pretty much it. Nothing else I need to say. Thank you.
That was well stated. Thank you. Certainly, Jackie, I'm sorry.
Okay, it's all right. Okay, thank you. All right, I have heard about your business. I'm not that familiar with it. I can certainly visualize the location. But now, a couple of questions. You have the trailer, the truck, and if you stay there between 7 and 3, how do you do that with, do you have an agreement with someone to use their restroom facilities?
Yes, we do. Yes. So in order for the health department to give us permission to be there, we have to have, they call it a bathroom authorization form, and they fill it, the owners of the properties fill it out, they sign it, we turn it in to the health department, they come out and check, make sure we have hot water, cold water, soap, all those things that we have to supply for ourselves and for the customers.
Okay, so what type of a business, is it personal for me to ask what type of a business you do have an agreement with? They're obviously not a food business, right?
No, they're not a food business.
Uh-huh, so it's some type of a other business.
Yes.
Okay, so, but that is what makes it possible for you to be there, those hours. Now, do you have, so you have a certain location. Do you have an agreement with that business to be there in front of their business?
In their parking lot?
Oh,
Yes.
you're in the parking lot?
Yes. So to answer that question, I know you had a little confusion on that. I don't believe you're allowed to park on the street.
Okay.
On the street for more than 10, 20 minutes.
I see.
I don't even see that would be possible, because in that case, that would be a problem, because they could park right outside where I'm at, and we could have 14 trucks all the way around. I don't think that's going to happen, and I don't think that should happen. I believe that a truck should park in private property and have their time frame. We started from 6 to 3, and then we moved this 7 to 5. Now we have moved this 7 to 9, because the customers are asking us to stay there longer.
I see, so you have, okay, that is what was not made clear to me. You're
Yes.
on private
We're
property?
in private property. If you park on the street, first of all, you only have 30 minutes to park on the street, and
Right.
that's not the way, I don't believe even the city allows us to park on the street itself. And I wouldn't do business like that. That would be more of a construction scenario, park, move on, move on. That's what we used to do in the past.
So you have an agreement with the business, so you're in a parking lot? You're in the parking lot of the business that you have the agreement with?
Correct. Whether it could be a restaurant, it could be a pet shop, it could be any kind of restaurant. As long as you're in private property, you submit some paperwork for the coordinates, so they give you permission to be there.
I
And
see. Okay, very good. Okay, thanks for making
welcome.
that clear to me. Thank you, Harold.
Thank you, Jackie. Madam Clerk?
The last speaker is Andy Escobar.
Good evening. Please speak into the microphone and state your name.
Thank you again for meeting with us today. You just heard from Chris, who's the heart and soul of the Curbside Kitchen. I'm the other side. My name's Andy Escobar, and I'm more on the behind the scenes. And there's definitely a misconception with what it entails to actually run a food truck business like the Curbside Kitchen and like Pita Paradise. You know, I know you asked the question, do we have permission? We actually have a lease agreement. You know, we pay rent, we pay transient permits. We're a business entity, we have business accounts. We pay merchant services, we have payroll. I have 13 employees currently. We've also opened up a small kitchen inside of a gas station. That's another project. We're working on another project downtown. But just like any other project I've been a part of as far as opening up a business, in putting together that business plan, we find a need. And there was definitely a need for a food truck downtown. I went to school in San Diego, and the food truck scene out there is completely different. I spoke with Chris, he's run trucks in the past, and I said, hey, are you ready to open up a truck in Bakersfield. We're going to be, we have to be prepared to be able to kind of make some changes before I open up the business. We asked a few questions and we didn't have a complete answer, and I love the fact that we're doing this so that everybody knows we're on the same playing field and we'll be able to kind of follow the same ordinances. One of the things is, you know, I've grown up in Bakersfield. I had a mortgage and real estate office right on 18th Street, right down the street from where we're at currently. And I've lived there, worked there, and played downtown. And the fact that we're right across the street from the Padre, when someone asks, hey, you know, we're interested in having a good cocktail, or we want pizza and we want to go listen to some music, it's easy for us to be able to have a good synergy downtown. We work together. I've referred people to Jerry's Pizza, Mama Roomba's, you know, so many different places downtown that have become a staple and a tradition to us. And we just really look at what we're trying to do downtown as something that we really want to be a part of. So I think just the biggest thing is just a misconception of what it takes to run a truck. We pay quarterly taxes, so the city is definitely, you know, wanting us there. And it's been humbling the way that the consumer has embraced us. So, you know, just trying to keep it pretty short for you guys, but that's really it. Just wanted to let you guys know that we want to be a part of that. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments. Madam Clerk?
We just need some direction on this matter, Vice Mayor.
That's the last one.
Last one. Okay, does staff have any other comments? See it done. We will turn this over to council for comments and action. Sorry, Chris. Chris, you're on. I give you that blank look. Or Jackie, I guess Jackie's.
Who's first?
One of us.
I'll go.
Okay, go.
You know, I do like the vibe and energy and, as mentioned, synergy that the food trucks, you know, create in the downtown. But I also understand the separation of, especially with Jerry's Pizza. You know, years ago, I actually licensed Jerry's Pizza through Alcoholic Beverage Control, and I knew the process that he had to go through back then. So I think it was also brought up regarding, you know, Burger King can go across the street from McDonald's, but that's across the street. And Nick, where's Nick? If I get somebody from staff to be able to answer, what's the standard size of, let's say, a large intersection? Is that 100, 150 feet? Anybody?
Councilor Parley, typical cross street, 60 feet at least, just from right-of-way to right-of-way, is very common, plus setback distances, so you could be 80 feet across the street from between a business frontage to a business frontage.
Okay, so if you said 100-foot separation, that wouldn't be necessarily out of the norm, or?
It wouldn't be out of the norm, but you're talking about someone across the street. You have businesses right next to each other that we have. I mean, we have restaurants downtown that you have literally walk 30 feet down between the doors. So you have kind of both scenarios where you have businesses, Burger Kings and McDonald's across the street from itself, like you're talking about, but you also have stuff that's a little more dense too.
Okay, thanks, Phil. And I'll just kind of bounce this off for my colleagues to discuss also. I think some sort of separation between 75 and 100 feet might be appropriate. The table and chairs, I think with 4 tables might be a little bit on the large side. If 16 people, if I could have, Phil, maybe you can comment on this. If we go with a CUP on, could you limit it, let's say, to, if you had 4 tables, you could do a CUP, or?
It's up to council to determine how many tables. I mean, in reality, you could say you could have 1 or 2 tables, up to 2 tables with so many chairs.
And if you go beyond that, you require a?
Anything beyond that, you would need a CUP.
Okay.
So you could limit it smaller, Same thing with the multiple, food trucks, if they're in a different zone, same thing.
Another question on street parking was brought up on street parking for time. I think it was stated 20 minutes. How long could a truck stay on the street before it's a violation, parked on a curb?
Under the current ordinances that we're enforcing is 10 minutes. Under our proposed ordinance, we're saying 2 hours. However, the county health department, they have a requirement if it's over 30 minutes, then they have to have that bathroom within the 200 feet. So there's kind of multiple requirements that a food truck has to meet. It's our requirements plus the county's.
Okay. And the permitting cost for the food trucks, that's a standard permitting cost, just like any other business?
That would be handled through our master fee schedule, and we have not come up with what the actual permit cost would be, because it has to be tied to the actual expense that staff incurs to do the permitting. So the rough estimate right now is around $120, $260.
What's a business cost offhand, if you happen to know?
We don't do traditional business licenses for a lot of other businesses, but a business tax certificate runs based on gross income, so it's kind of not apples to apples. I think the closest one I could come up with is a massage permit, I think is $150 or thereabouts for the most similar type of business I could think of.
Okay, thank you. So I guess my recommendation at this point would be a foot requirement, and I'm good with anything from 75 to 100 feet, depending on what my colleagues come up with. Hours of operation, if I could have, Sergeant, regarding the hours again, was that, again, the beat or the zone you were saying? Is that 3? I thought it said beat 3 or something up there.
No, the area that comprises the downtown area is 3 reporting districts, 3 beats. And so that one, the calls for service during that time period of 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. is approximately 250% higher than the average of the other beats around town. And looking at the draft ordinance, we would support a closure of 1 a.m. so that the business of the trucks would be gone before the last calls and closing of the businesses in the area.
And in your best opinion, especially with alcohol consumption from adjacent businesses, people coming out, that there could be some sort of a conflict?
Absolutely.
Okay. On times, I would go with staff recommendation just due to a public safety issue. I understand that the business owners, possibly wanting to run 24/7, but let me ask staff, can we, if we did set a time, and we wanted to change it, I guess it's our prerogative. We come back at any time and amend if need be, correct? Okay.
Councilmember Parlier, correct. Anything with this ordinance, we can come back either as part of a cleanup or an amendment at a later time.
Okay, well, I want to listen to what my other colleagues have to say. Thank you.
Councilmember Rivera. No, you're next.
I lost my spot. I
You're
lost
next,
my
Jack.
spot.
Go for it.
Great, thank you. When I punched again, I lost my spot. Okay, well, I think there does need to be hours. And I would certainly, the police department, they are responsible for keeping the peace, and it's not easy. I know it's not. I mean, you're spread very thin, and I can just visualize when the bars or the places do close, that is when there could definitely be problems outside. And once the places are locked up, then there are no bathroom facilities. So just all sorts of problems when at 2 o'clock, it's time to call a pedicab or a way to get home. I think 1 a.m. is very reasonable and would avoid obvious problems from my perspective. So I feel very strong on the 1 o'clock. And really, I think there are just too many issues to come to anything definite tonight, in my opinion. But the timing, and also staff, I'm surprised, I'm not sure where Chris has the information. I didn't get it. It would have been helpful in our packet on Friday to have had the ordinance that we looked at, you know, to be able to make notes on. But, okay, so that, I think, is important to me to go along with our police suggestions and recommendations. And the street parking, I mean, there are just a lot of issues. Anyway, that's fine for now.
Councilmember Sullivan, with the mayor's permission, you give us direction tonight, and it comes back to you 2 other occasions, first and second reading. And so if you're still pondering over the distance issue, or you're pondering over the table number issue or something, you got 2 more shots. This just gets the formal process started to give us enough direction to get going.
I see. Okay, that's fine. I just had a thought, but that's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Rivera.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Do we have a motion right now? No, right?
We do not.
Okay. So it sounds like what I'm hearing from my colleagues, and I'll be honest, and perhaps this is revealing of my youth, but I would agree with the speaker who said there shouldn't be time restrictions, but I'm willing to let that go for now. Could I make a motion to have staff begin this process, bring it back for first reading at the next meeting with the timeframes already included in the current draft, the 75-foot requirement from brick and mortar businesses, and I think there was a third item on your slide, Phil or Richard.
I think the third item, Councilmember Rivera, was whether you wanted to have the more restrictive central business zone, or you wanted to broaden it to the CC zone. And the current way it's written is under the more broader CC zone.
And perhaps tables and chairs, if you want to reduce the number of tables and chairs as well.
You should know what my response is on the tables and chairs is. I don't actually really feel the need to get into the minutia of tables and chairs, but if there's a staff recommendation that suggests there's a good way to do it, I would incorporate that into my motion now. Because this was a part of the conversation we had at the committee, and I would have agreed with the statements made then about expanding the areas, I would make a motion reflective of the CC and CB zones.
Correct.
Phil?
Councilor Rivera, our recommendation back on the tables and chairs would be reducing it back to 1 tables and chairs, including a shade structure with like 6 seats. What we're trying to do is make something easy for code enforcement to enforce, because we will get the person who wants to have just a ton of items on his area.
Okay.
And that's kind of, and the other thing I didn't talk about, and I missed in my presentation, these tables and chairs, whatever they have out there, they have to pick up at the end of the day, because the reality is it makes sense to have so many things that they have to pick up, put in their van to take away.
I hear you. So
If I may, Councilmember Rivera, can I just ask Mr. Burns, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that staff's recommendation was also the more restrictive CB. It's up to the council, but it sounds like you're going with all staff recommendations, which is great.
Well, no, I just said, I misunderstood then. I support the larger area of CBCC, especially because, as I understand it, and perhaps it's important for council members, Weir, Hanson, and Parlier to understand this, but downtown is actually reflected in both of those areas, if I understood that correctly. I'm assuming the answer is yes. I see nods. So my motion would be to move forward with staff's recommendations, amending the ordinance to include CB and CC zones, and bring back a first reading of the ordinance at such a time you deem appropriate.
I understand. We'll bring it back at your next meeting.
Question, comment? Harold, didn't you say, though, Willie, that you wanted to extend the distance to 75 feet?
Well, I heard Councilmember Parlier mention that, and I thought I heard you say, do you like that?
Okay, because I don't have any information. The slide, wasn't that 30 feet that was being recommended by the city?
Councilmember Sullivan, various departments had a broader range. They had anywhere between 30 and 100. So I understand Councilman Rivera to make the motion that it should be 75 feet on the distance, staff recommendations on the hour, staff recommendations on the tables and chairs as Mr. Burns presented it, and for the ordinance to include the larger CC zone. And that will come back for first reading if a majority of you approve that.
She said it best. That's why we pay her to be our attorney. That would be my motion, and then I think this is, all of this is really in its infantile stages, and I would encourage the businesses that are here affected by it, or future businesses to come back to the city if for some reason we need to fine tune something else or fix something else. It's not like we only meet once a year. So this is a fluid process. Consider this group open and willing to address issues as they come up, and I think we'd all make the commitment to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a comment. Gentlemen, sorry, I don't remember your name, but you talked about illegal operators. What are we doing on that?
Good point.
I know, Phil, you have an abundance of people just running around with all kinds of time, but
Councilmember Hanson, I'd like to ask for another 10 code enforcement officers at this time, and maybe I could do something about this. The reality, most of the vendors we turn over to the county health. I can say that we have done a couple of stings on vendors just in the parks here recently. They are on our radar, again, with the resources we get to them when we get complaints. So I'd recommend Mr. Simpson, please give us a call when he has a location of one. Please call our complaint line. We'll get someone out there, or we'll get it addressed. We're not proactively out there looking at every corner for these type of vendors. But if you get us a complaint, we will get it addressed.
and then I have another question. What, are you getting any complaints about trash around these trucks? Because, unfortunately, people throw garbage on the floor on the ground instead of in a trash barrel.
Vice Mayor Hanson, part of the reason we added the trash receptacle as an ordinance to kind of take care of that issue, I'm not aware of, as far as the downtown food truck vendors, of us having that type of an issue. I can say some of the ones on the outlying areas, we have had trash issues and just debris everywhere. So it can happen, but I can say our operators downtown, we have not had that problem.
Okay, well, that means congratulations, guys, probably doing a good job there. As far as the staff recommendation on time, I really believe that 10 o'clock at night is sufficient. I just can't see, other than a warm, sunny night like we have tonight, but October, November, December, January, February, March, that people are going to be out sitting in a park looking for one of these facilities. So I'm comfortable with that, and I certainly back the police department on that. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Harold,
Jackie,
yeah,
you're
I
next.
have one more. Phil, regarding the problem, the obvious problem about the legal and the non-legal vendors, an idea came to me that I'd like your comment on. What about having the license or the permit laminated and displayed on the vehicle?
Councilmember Sullivan, that is actually a requirement already in our proposed ordinance, and they also have to post the health certificate also,
Okay.
as far as the legal vendors.
So then we could learn to be trained well enough to, if they don't, of course, then there'll probably be forgeries. Of course, something, there's always something. but at least that would be, then that would really be serious. And Phil, not reading, yeah, not reading every word on the proposed ordinance, it just seems like people that are disrespectful, you know, the vendors, and leave trash around. It just seems like they would, and of course, this is more paperwork, continually more for our city staff. But it seems like, you know, if there were abuses and if they were registered, if it was a continual problem, that they would have the chance to lose their privilege.
Councilmember Sullivan, that's also in the ordinance as it's currently written.
Okay, great. Great. You know, you've done a good job then.
Thank you. Councilman Parlier?
Vice Mayor, I just have one comment. Most of that illegal activity is taking place after 10 o'clock at night. That's when they come out. So the code enforcement, maybe we need to do split shifts and have somebody come out in the evening and start cracking the whip on that. That's where the illegal activities take place.
Thank you. Chris?
You know, Harold, in hindsight, I have no further comment. Thank you.
We have a motion. I guess it's time to vote. Is that correct? Okay. Do you want to read that motion one more time?
Certainly.
Please.
Vice Mayor Hansen, this is a motion to move first reading of the mobile food vending ordinance to include hours by way of staff recommendation, distance from brick and mortar 75 feet, staff's recommendation as to tables and chairs, and the ordinance will include the more broadened zone of CC.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on with the vote. Thank you. I think I did. Wait a minute.
The motion is approved with Councilmembers Maxwell and Smith absent.
Okay. Thank you all. Next item.
You stay. Thank you.
The next item is 7A, appointments. One, appointment to the Board of Directors of the North of the River Recreation and Park District due to the resignation of Dana Martin, whose term expires December 31, 2017. One application has been received from Robert LaRue.
Councilmember Weir.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I nominate Robert LaRue to fill that position. Thank you.
Please vote.
The motion is unanimously approved.
Thank you for your offer to participate, Mr. LaRue. Next item.
To our item, consent calendar items 8A through 8BB for approval. A staff memorandum has been received requesting item 8I be removed from the agenda.
Councilmember Weir.
Does any council member wish to abstain from any item on the consent calendar? Seeing none, does any council member wish to remove an item on the consent calendar for separate consideration? Item AX, 8AX, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve items 8A through 8. Eight BB with the exception of item 8X.
And the removal of item 8I.
at everybody.
The motion is unanimously approved.
Thank you. Councilmember Maxwell.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Consent item 8AX. This is appropriate $35,000 in Rose Foundation grant funds to the City Manager's Office capital budget in the Capital Outlay Fund. In June 2016, the city received $35,000 from the Rose Foundation grant funds to augment the citywide active transportation plan, since a substantial portion of the proposed plan will be centered in Bakersfield metropolitan area. This is a countywide active transportation plan which identifies strategies in increasing walking, bicycling, and transit use in Kern County. Not only will the proposed plan create a vision for local, regional active transportation, it will also assist in the city and region to be more competitive for future grant opportunities. I get asked routinely from my constituents about the increase in our bike transportation plan. And I think one of their concerns is they don't see a lot of bicyclists using them. They do see a tremendous number of people using our bike path, which I think is one of the real big amenities we've got in this community. I just know so many people that really enjoy that. And so I'm hoping that we've got a vision that we're working on. Where are we going with this? I mean, is this truly just to get more grant funds because of the state requirements for us to have a plan? Are we really going to do something that is substantive to our constituents, so that they have that feeling that even if it's foundation money from the Rose Foundation, or whether it's Kern COG spending their money, or whether it's the county spending their money, that we're going someplace with this? So can anybody give me kind of an idea of what we're hoping to accomplish with this?
Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor Hanson, Councilmember Maxwell, the active transportation plan that the county is putting together is a multiple, not just biking. It also includes some pedestrian studies. So it does help us to establish a master plan looking for high-use corridors, whether it be walking or bicycling. So it helps us to develop a more specialized plan. It does help us. Every year there are grants that are available, federal grants, ATP grants. This helps us to be in line with those type of opportunities, because they are looking for cities that have plans in place that will help develop these corridors. So,
how does the public get involved? Because I think what everybody's worried about, and what I see, is that we approve this kind of money. It goes into the hole called Kern COG. And when it comes back out, we sometimes don't recognize exactly what they're thinking versus what we're thinking and what the community's thinking. So how does, because I've gone to Kern COG before, and you know, it's not a real warm and fuzzy group. You can sit there for a long time before they ask you to say anything. I mean, is there a good forum that people can go and say, look, this is what we think the bicycle plan should look like? Because as I say, if it were me, I'd go and advocate that we need more bicycle paths and less on the streets. That it's pretty obvious the bike path gets 100 times more use than anything else we've got out there.
Councilmember Maxwell, they do community meetings to help develop the plan. They will host community meetings to get citizen input. They will do pedestrian and bike counts on routes to justify where these corridors should be. So they will be out in the community. They will give community opportunity to add input to the process.
Okay, and then our long-term goal is to reduce greenhouse gases, to reduce the consumption of I guess gasoline and those other things in order to get people to live in a more walkable community. You know, one of the things that's really neat is I know we've been involved in some of the master plans for the builders and the developers. There's a couple of really nice designs out there that you know, they're spending money to come up with plans where you can live in a community where you can walk and you can bike. There really is a good reason to park your car and not have to go anyplace. But that's private money that's being spent, and this is public money. So I just want to be assured that this money is going to go to something that people can point to. And so I would urge anybody who's interested, contact KernCog, find out when they're going to have these particular meetings, and get involved, especially people that do a lot of bike riding, but I think also the people that ride bikes for just for the fun of it. So with that, I will go ahead and move that we approve item 8AX.
Thank you. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I might be able to answer a couple of questions. Yes, who's involved? And yes, there are many public meetings during the process for the bicycle active transportation plan. And I would say, yes, the bike path gets a lot of use, and part of the plan is to have more bike paths, our existing plan, and we've been working with staff to have more bike paths. We're working on one that we think we're real close to getting agreement with the Bureau of Reclamation on the Frank Kern Canal. So pathways throughout town, but you can't always be on the bike path. I ride every day, and I come down 21st Street. And we also participate in bike counts, and one of the highest use area is actually over on Baker Street. So there are people that use bicycle for transportation, not just recreation, and not because of greenhouse gases, but because that's all they can afford. So I think we have a responsibility to provide safe transportation for all of our constituents. Thank you.
I can verify that Councilmember Smith speaks with a straight tongue when it comes to him riding a bicycle himself. And Terry, we have a KernCog meeting tomorrow night. I'll be representing the city, so you're welcome to come by if you like. Okay, we have a motion. Please vote.
The motion is unanimously approved.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Under 9, consent calendar item, public hearing items 9A through 9C for approval.
Thank you. It is now time for the consent calendar hearings. The purpose of the section is to vote on all of the items listed under consent calendar hearings in one motion without further comment. If anyone wishes to speak on any of the hearing items listed, the item must be removed from the portion of the agenda. If an item is removed, it will be placed at the end of the regular public hearing portion of the meeting. At this time, I will open the consent calendar public hearing items 9A, 9B, 9C, and ask if there is anyone in the audience who wishes to speak on any of those hearing items. Okay. Seeing none, does any council member wish to remove or to speak regarding one of these items? Okay. Seeing none, at this time, the consent calendar public hearing items 9A, 9B, 9C are now closed. We need a vote on that? Yes, okay. We have a motion to, or Councilmember Weir, I'm sorry, I got carried away there.
That's okay. I move staff's recommendation on items 9A through C, or D. C.
The motion is unanimously approved.
Thank you. Sorry, Ken. I forgot where I was at. Okay, next item, please.
Under new business, 12A, wireless communication facilities within city street right-of-way.
Okay, but ask Mr. Fiddler to step forward. But prior to him making his presentation, I would remind my fellow council members that we don't really need to have a lot of discussion on this item tonight. As a matter of fact, we probably don't need to have any discussion because this is going to be coming back for further examination at a later point. Is that correct?
Correct. We'll be recommending to take this to planning and development.
Okay, so let's move this along. Thank you. Nick, you're on.
Honorable Vice Mayor Hansen, council members, tonight we'll be discussing another ordinance issue that has developed in the recent, due to the rapid growth of wireless mobile communication devices, has created a new challenge for placement of above-ground facilities in the public right-of-way. Wireless facilities in public right-of-way City has received over the past several months 24 applications for permits from one company to install wireless communication facilities, WCF, within city right-of-way at locations throughout the city. This is first of potentially many companies that could approach the city for this type of permit. Staff research has revealed that many of the other municipalities has also been receiving and dealing with similar applications over the past few years. We've reached out to several of the large metropolitan area cities, such as San Francisco. They've been dealing with this for at least 2-3 years now. The city, this company holds a statewide franchise from the California Public Utilities Commission that allows placement of equipment within the city right-of-way, and that this company is just one of many companies constructing wireless networks within the public right-of-way for national cellular providers. I would like to thank Andrew Hagelin within our city's attorney's office. He did a lot of the heavy lifting within this research. And Ted Wright on my staff has also helped, and it's been a huge task, and we were completely blind to the situation until it was recently brought to our attention. Current state and federal laws. Since this company holds a CPUC state license, the following laws apply. City cannot prohibit the placement of the wireless communication facilities within city right-of-way. The city may not take action that has the effect of prohibiting the provisions of wireless services or closing a significant gap in the service coverage. Federal Telecommunications Act of 1996 prohibits discrimination against wireless telecommunication providers or prohibiting such providers from providing wireless service within the city. CPUC issues statewide franchises that allows licensed firms the right to place equipment within the city right-of-way. This is subject to a city's reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions to preserve the character of the neighborhood and avoid aesthetic blight, among other things. Restrictions must apply to all entities, for example, new power poles and etc. Our current city ordinances provide the following. Governs construction of wireless communication facilities on private property, but does not regulate the placement of wireless communication facilities within the city right-of-way. Our current ordinance requires either an administrative approval or a conditional use permit for the wireless communication facility on private property, depending on the proposed site and the location of the facilities and the zoning of the proposed site. Ordinance can also require the city manager's office to approve the placement of any new pole within the city right-of-way, but only for new poles that support wires and not ancillary equipment. City right-of-way is not zoned, so zoning regulations do not apply. Lacks any standard, our current ordinances lack any standards for placement of and aesthetic of poles and equipment within the right-of-way. As I stated before, we've received 24 new applications. The current applications are 23 new pole locations and 1 co-located application on an existing street light. 22 of the poles are taller than 60 feet. Our typical street light is only 28 feet, so you can imagine how high, that's actually double our street lights. 6 poles are 120 feet tall. That's taller than the Padre Hotel, the Bank of America building, and the Stockdale Tower, and nearly twice as tall as City Hall North, just directly across the street. Wards 3 through 7 each have at least one 120-foot pole. Ward 6 has 2. Ward 2 would have an 85-foot pole, and Ward 1 would have a 75-foot pole. Just to give you a perspective of height comparisons, as you can see on the very left of the screen, the height of a regular street light is 28 feet. The average height of a house is about 22 to 25 feet. The height of City Hall North is 72 feet, and the height of this single pole is 120 feet. Most locations of these pole placements for the 120-foot pole are adjacent to a single-story building, so ranging anywhere from 25 to 30 feet. I'm going to provide you a few sample locations of the 120-foot pole. Where you're looking at now is Mount Vernon Avenue, 200 feet south of Mallview Road. If you guys don't recognize this, just to the right of the screen is the Home Depot. Just to the left of the screen is the Sizzler on the west side of Mount Vernon, and you're looking at 178 in the top of the picture. And that is a 120-foot pole, and adjacent to that, the structures are ranging between 25 and 30 foot tall. The second location is Stockdale Highway, 330 feet west of Jueto Avenue. To give you your bearings, the park in the right corner of the picture is Era Park. Brighton Estates is directly to the north, and BCHS and the Bridge Bible Church are on the south side. Old River Road, 300 feet north of Ming Avenue. This is a 120-foot pole again. This is the Era Energy office complex, the intersection of Ming Avenue and Old River Road. They're pretty common known. Again, Era Energy building is a multi-story building, but you can see directly across the street there are single-family residences adjacent to that. Next location is Ash Road and Nottingham Lane. Just to the north, or directly next door, is the Osh Shopping Center. Just north outside of this picture is Ming Avenue. Osh Building Supply is probably a 35-foot tall building. So again, 120 foot is almost 4 times higher than the building next to it. This location is Ash Road near Windmere. This is directly south of White Lane. You can see the railroad tracks in the middle of the screen, the Darrell's Mini Storage to the right of the pole location. Again, nothing in that area that's anywhere close to 100 feet tall. Hosking Avenue at Weibel Road. This pole is proposed for a location that hasn't been developed yet. There could be some issues with when the pole goes in and the corner develops, how that placement of the pole fits into the development. Imagining that's a commercial center right now, I'm not sure how that pole would impact that facility, being that it's not, the corner is not developed. Old River Road, north of Batagalia Street Drive, 100-foot pole. You could see Harris Road on the south side, and it's about 500 feet north of that. (2700) F Street. You see 28th Street in the just north of the pole location. This building is a multi-story. I believe it's only a 2-story facility, but F Street's a pretty major corridor. This is just south of 204, State Route 204. You can see Village Grill in the Caddy Corner, and Rosemary's directly across the street. East 11th Street and 90. This is not too far from MLK, Dr. Martin Luther King Park, just west of that, about a block and a half, and just south of East California. This is proposed to be a 75-foot pole. Again, 3 times higher than anything adjacent to it. This is an example that some of the other cities have been challenged with. This is a picture of San Francisco on the poles. Part of their ordinances have tried to get away from what is happening on the right of the screen, where you have co-locations of several facilities on a single pole, and just creates a cluster of boxes that are attached to the pole. What they've done with their ordinance is it created something that's on the left, where they co-locate on a street light and try to blend it in so it isn't so obvious and distractive. Where we are, actions for tonight, what we're asking from council is to adopt resolution imposing a moratorium, an initial 45-day moratorium, extend with public hearing at September City Council meeting, and then refer placement of wireless communication facilities in city right-of-way to Planning and Development Committee. Staff would like to then take the time to review other city ordinances to help develop our ordinance, receive input from community, and work with the wireless communication providers to make sure that they're capable of meeting our ordinances, and draft new city ordinances for approval within 6 to 9 months. And if you have any questions, be happy to answer.
Yeah, this should be a lot of fun to work on. I'm glad it's not now. Bob?
Thank you, Councilmember. I would make staff's recommendation, a motion to adopt a resolution imposing a 45-day interim moratorium and refer the issue to the Planning and Development Committee.
Thank you. Please vote.
The motion is unanimously approved.
Next item, please.
Council and mayor statements.
Councilmember Smith, you're on your way to New York.
Thank you, Councilmember. I just had a few comments. Appreciate staff's work on the Air District grants. Bike lanes that were approved tonight are in Northwest Bakersfield, and I'm happy to have them in my ward. Thank you. And the other item that was on the agenda tonight was the grant that we received for the Cops, Clergy, and Community Program to appropriate $506,000 state revenues to work with the community. I think that's a great program. Reading through the grant application was very interesting. I think it shows that we don't need just more police, that community outreach and working in the most high-risk area and being focused and creating better relationships between the community and the police can help cut down on our crime, and working with the high-risk youth is a great thing. So I appreciate staff working on that grant, and I pray that it will help. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Councilmember Rivera?
Thanks, Vice Mayor. I had a few items, and I just want to add one more thank you to Councilmember Smith's comments on that particular grant. Supervisor Perez over at the County of Kern played an integral part in us getting that, so I want to thank her for her efforts as well. I'd like to make two referrals. One is to simply add on a few more items to my Safe Neighborhoods meeting request, because I understand I've been asked to do this. Please put on the list South Side. I'd like an update on the South Side substation, how it's going, whether or not we believe it's been effective, and what we plan on doing with it in the future. We used to get these regularly. We have not met in a while, but I'd like a graffiti and gang enforcement update. One thing that was important to me, and Councilmember Smith is correct, it is more than just more officers on the street. One thing that was important to me that was a part of the IACP recommendations was the establishment of these liaison officers. I'd actually like to get an update on their activities and how that's going. And then Safe Streets Partnership is pretty active. I haven't been able to make it to recent meetings in a while, but I'd like to get an update on that as well. I imagine those are several items, so maybe we have an opportunity to have one or two Safe Neighborhood meetings between now and the end of the year. And then my last referral item was related to the folks that came from Brighton Park. I understand Councilmember Smith is moving forward with something, and I appreciate that. I actually met with Mr. Webb, and I think he makes he presents very well, and I think he made a very compelling case when he met with me. I would just ask that his comments or comments from his group, if he is the representative, be ensured when we come back in September, I think was the referral, I believe. I'd like for I'd like to hear from both. So if staff's going to come back with an analysis or conclusion on that particular neighborhood's comments, I'd like to hear input from them as well. That concludes my comments. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Willie. Mr. Maxwell?
Thank you, Vice Mayor Hanson. I was wondering, on that same subject, September 21st is when you're going to meet with them. Why is it not any sooner than that? Because they seem to have all their information put together, and don't we have another meeting before the end of September? Do we just have one meeting in September at the
Councilmember
end?
Maxwell, the particular meeting he was referring to is with staff and Councilmember Smith, in whose ward Brighton is located, and the Vice Mayor Hanson, who has filled in on occasion when Councilmember Smith was absent. The date was established after about a week and a half of comparing time availability. I think their time availability was worse than ours. It was as soon as we could meet.
Okay. Okay, and the purpose of the meeting is to put together something that the council can sink its teeth into and make a decision as to what we're going to do to move forward?
Ultimately, I guess, they contracted to do a noise study on their own, and we have had a firm review it, and the initial part is discussing the study and the response to the study, but in a broader, longer-term context, your statement would be correct.
Okay, great. My other comment tonight is on the request that we look into how we could possibly afford 100 new officers over the next 5 years. And I read an article in the newspaper, and my colleague, Councilmember Weir, had said, well, he didn't think it could be in 5 years, but might be in 10. You know, I think that's not a bad starting point, that we can at some point all agree that we need more police officers, and maybe somewhere in the middle is where we can meet. So, and I do appreciate the city manager and Nelson Smith putting together the information that we all received. I think that the premise of my referral was to find the money in the budget to expand the police force to 100 more officers in the next 5 years. That's 20 per year, and I wanted to give the city manager's office an opportunity to evaluate the different sources of income and where the money is being spent in order to put together a financial plan. What we all received was a premise at the city manager's office that it would be impossible to add any more officers at this time. Based on the referral response we all received, I first would like to ask that to know what it takes to redirect the TOT back into the general fund. It currently goes into the capital outlay fund. I think that instead of the TOT money going directly into the capital outlay fund, it should go into the general funds, and then monies in the general fund can be placed into the capital outlay fund if it is available. But I think that money should be definitely looked at to go back into general funds so that we can fund some of these things that we know we all need. I think if we've heard it several times tonight, where either citizens or some of my colleagues are concerned about the crime rate that we're all experiencing. Secondly, I would like to know from the police management team how they would implement the addition of 12 officers per year over the next 5 years. I specifically want to know whether the officers would be added to the current zones, or if a new zone would be developed to reduce the size of the zones we currently have. I think it tells the officers that there is some great opportunities for upward mobility within the department, and I think that's a way that we can maybe attract and keep more officers, because if they're looking at this as a career, everybody wants to join a company that has upward mobility, and I think that gives them a real strong indication that's what we're doing. And I can only reflect on Officer David Nelson, and he set an example for others. If anyone on the force wants to know what it would do to be considered for advancement, just look at the accomplishments and the commitment Officer Nelson had before his untimely death. So I would like information back as some sort of a response to all of us in terms of the TOT, and also in terms for the police management team, how we might be able to implement, or how you view we would implement the addition of that number of officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Mrs. Sullivan?
Thank you. Alan, a quick question regarding the sound wall. Whose decision would it be about the sound wall, and whose expense would it be to build it?
It is ineligible under any federal or state criteria, so no federal or state funds could be utilized legally for it. So the only revenue source that could pay for it is the city of Bakersfield. That is the request of the residents of Brighton Estates, and it would be a city council decision.
I see, okay. And when would it be appropriate for us to have an idea of the cost? After, as it?
I think they just changed their request. This has been going on for a year and a half, okay? So this isn't new. There have been 3 professional studies done on this subject. I think they changed the height requirement or the height request on their request. So by next week, we can give you a number.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, now on Ash Road, driving over the railroad tracks right by Pacheco, driving north, Nick, it is just, you almost damage your car. If you hit it just at the wrong spot, and it's not at all visible that there's a problem. But I forgot about it the first time until I went over it just last Sunday. And if someone could just see if there's any way that can be made better. I'm surprised that we haven't had a lot of complaints about that. It's really surprisingly just destructive to a vehicle. So I would appreciate you looking into that. Okay, good meeting, everyone. Later, longer than usual, but thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Councilmember Parlier?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to refer an item to Legend Lit to investigate the use of the administrative process for combating illegal pole signage, and I'm talking about the I buy houses type signs. And if staff could check with I've heard the city of Santa Clarita has a potentially good program, and if we can check their best practices or maybe some other surrounding cities to see what they're doing too to combat this. I have a request too that Keep Bakersfield Beautiful, if we could have them provide a semi-annual report to the council to highlight maybe either before or after, it's staff's prerogative, regarding their Great America Cleanup and Make a Difference Day. And I would like to thank the following donations to our Bakersfield Animal Care Facility. The Bakersfield Veterinary Hospital donated a surgery table. The Waters donated a sizable donation. The Pruitts and the Pierces for their contributions to that facility. Lastly, and Chief Greener, this is regards your department. I met with one of my constituents and his wife about a week ago. Their beloved animal, their dog, passed away, and the gentleman was out in his backyard, upset, 160-degree day, and was digging a grave for his pet in his flower bed, had a stroke, and before he was able to complete the burial process. And him and his wife, I talked to him, he was in hospital for 6 days, and like I said, I met him probably a week after he's out of the hospital. He's doing fine, but they were so complimentary of the Bakersfield Fire Department and Hall Ambulance for the services that they received. She said when she came home, I think it was the next day from the hospital, she said that the grave had been filled in, all the tools in the backyard had been put away in their shed, and the shed had been secured. This is just an example of exemplary service by the fire department. And they would like to arrange some sort of a meeting with, I think it's Station 13, and Hall. If you could maybe try and arrange that. She said you want to bring cookies and meet with the staff and thank them and the gentleman too. So I have their information, and I'll provide that for you afterwards. And that's it. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you, Chris. Mr. Weir?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I have a request of Councilmember Rivera. The IACP study came from a referral to me to staff for the police department to develop a strategic plan. And I intentionally referred that to staff, so any conversation or any discussion about the strategic plan or the IACP study would be before the entire council. It's a very important issue to all of us. And so I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind, I think every discussion we've had on that, we've had before the full council, and if you wouldn't mind redirecting that for a future council member meeting, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to reiterate, I was specifically asking about the liaison officer, so I think everyone would appreciate hearing about that.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, Ked. My comments, I have a referral for a look at the traffic signal at Gosford and Begg. It's self-explanatory, but traffic issue. Couple things. A couple weeks ago, I went out with the code enforcement guys and guys and one, and went along the river where they're doing a cleanup for some of the homeless people. And what was surprising to me, I didn't realize it, but there was 8 police officers out there. Now, not in one place drinking coffee, just doing their thing. And they were all busy because they had vehicles in several areas. But, you know, that's the kind of thing that I believe that most of us within the city don't realize law enforcement is so involved in these areas. So, you know, unfortunately, we have to have police officers out there watching over our people that are cleaning up, doing some other things, and they're not able to do the law enforcement that may be required in Terry's ward or my ward or whoever. So just a comment on that. I did want to say one thing. I heard that Jefferson Pool, I got this story kind of offhand, but apparently I think we drained the pool because there were some issues there. But there was a child that was in the bottom of the pool, a 3-year-old, because some older kids somehow got this child over the fence. And the police pulled up, and thank God, some police officer went in to look, and the child apparently had just fallen into the pool, and he dove in and pulled her out. So whoever you are, Mr. Policeman, thank you. You saved a life and did a great job. And that's just another thing that, you know, our police officers don't get the approval that they should. And last but not least, it was great fun tonight. Harvey Hall, you can leave anytime you like. It's fun.
Oh, he'll love hearing that.
No, actually, the mayor is in Tahoe, but on business. He's up there doing some things on behalf of the ambulance company, but it is great fun, and I hope all of you someday have the opportunity to do so. With that, if no other business, we are adjourned.